every story has a surface. Not every truth stays there. When the noise gets louder, clarity's still rare. For questions that matter, come talk with Sally. Sally, Sally. Join the conversation. Talk with Sally. Talk.
Welcome everyone to talk with. Looks like we're having a trouble with Rumble. What is the deal with Rumble? Let's see if I got the source code in here incorrectly. Oh my goodness. Let me see here. Give me just a second, guys. Got to figure out why Rumble's not working. Just give me. Let's see. Here, live stream. They changed things on here so much. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I hope you guys have had it's been probably 4 weeks since I've streamed. I was going on vacation. I'm like, you know what? I want to go on my schedule. And guess what? Now I'm home. My schedule starts with live streaming. I plan to do every Tuesday night. Protect the children's spaces. Let's see, where do I need to go? Dashboard. But Rumble likes to change the way they set up stuff. So hold on. My content, dashboard. What is the deal? Sorry, guys. I have ADD. I'm trying to do two things at once. It doesn't say it's gone live. Let's see. Can I click on that and have it go live? Did that cause it to go live? Let's see. Did that fix it? No. Okay. Got to try one more thing. So I got to log into StreamYard on a different browser. Let's see. Destination. Rumble edit. Talking you through this. If anyone wanted to know how to make sure that you set up your stream key for Rumble, I'm giving you just a little quick breakdown. Oh my goodness. Let's see. So I got to go to Rumble. Let's see. How did I get there just a second ago? Dashboard, content. There we go. Okay, they've changed it. It's to my content. So now let's go to clicking on that should take me to stream key. No, why does it keep taking me there? I need the stream key. Why is the stream key not there? Looking for the stream key. What did they do? Manage subscriptions. We might just be over on, if this doesn't work, guys, we're just going to be over on YouTube and on X. I'm just going to give this one more little try here. Download. Ready to share. Why can't I get my stream key? Right click. No. Edit maybe? Choose file. Has Rumble been not working for every other person? It's set for 11 p.m. Eastern or 8 p.m. At least it's what I didn't put a time. I didn't put a time on this. I just put go live. So let's go to settings. It says public, make recording. 2:10. This is 9:23 right now. Protect the children. I don't know why I can't find the stream key. It should just go live. Is it my title? Download. $2.10 has my placeholder. What? Guys, I don't know what this is doing. I can't find the dang stream key. I don't know what the deal is. Let's try. Okay, I'm going to try leaving and coming back. For those who are on YouTube on X, I apologize. I'm going to do a refresh. Maybe it's going to fix it. Maybe it's not. Why? We're having trouble streaming. It's not letting me get my stream key. Welcome to Rumble, everyone, where this is ridiculous. Maybe. Okay, let's try this. We're going to copy paste and see if we can just set up a new stream for Rumble. Okay, we're going to do that. So we're going to copy, guys. This stream is probably going to end. We're going to try this. Hopefully this is going to fix it. So everyone who is over on Rumble, it's going to end, but I'm just going to copy all the information. So let's go to my page. I'm going to copy this. Copy. Okay, then we're going to let's what may I wonder if it's not going to let me create a new one because I haven't even started this one. Go live. Let's see if it's going to let me do it. We're not going to put in a bunch of stuff. Let's go. Welcome to the podcast world. All right, well, let's put in our little. So anyway, guys, what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about, so there was when I do my Tuesday night streams, they're going to be about the children, protecting the children. There was a Maia Poet who came into Shepherd's Watch Foundation space tonight to share her story. And so we're going to play that, which is the good thing is I can pause and add commentary to it and add to the conversation. Whereas when it's not going to let me, how do I cancel my previous stream? Let's see if I can delete the other one. Let's try that. But anyway, it's going to be transgender and they target a special group of people. And I've seen this in my own state. I've got undercover footage where they intentionally target autistic children, and they connect with them. It's very, very calculated. Um, delete. Okay, I'm gonna delete this, guys. So you're gonna come back. If you guys are on Rumble, just come back to the next link. It's coming right away. So I'm going to confirm, delete. Okay. So guys, give me 1 second while I hurry and set a new stream up um for Rumble, because I know a lot of people like to watch over there. Let's see, we'll just make it a quick title. Sorry for the dead air. We'll have to go back and delete this. Okay, got that. All right. Why is it saying upload? I don't want to upload. I want to go live. Oh my gosh. What the heck? Did I not put a stream description in there? This is how long it takes to set up a live stream on StreamYard. It's very exciting. Enter RTMP. All right, got that set. Okay, let's go to close that out. StreamYard. Let's go to refresh over here. Okay, this is our last attempt at this, guys. If this doesn't work, then we're just going to have to X out of that. Let's How about that? I'm talking to myself. I'm not even on stage. You didn't even know what I was doing. All right, Rumble's not working. There must be an issue with Rumble. It's going perfectly to X, and it's going fine over to YouTube. So I don't know if other people are having that same issue. So let's get rid of that chat, and we'll just make this big. That sucks because I have a lot of cool people over on Rumble that I like to engage with, but that's okay. Oh my gosh, I feel like these lights are super bright in my face today. Don't know, don't know what's the deal. Okay. So let's start over, everyone. Welcome to Talk with Sally. I just got back from a week's long vacation in Arizona. I went to the Waste Management Phoenix Open. It was a really, really, really fun time. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite places to go visit, especially this time of year, because it's cold in Utah, and it really sucks coming back to cold Utah. But you know, it is what it is. Uh, but here we are. So I just got back. I'm going to get back on our schedule now. I talked about being on a schedule every Tuesday night. I want to stream Protect the Children's Spaces. Friday night, I want to pick a topic of something that's going on newsworthy. Sundays, I want to get back to doing a recap of all the news that's going on X and make it in just little clips to catch you up, because there is a lot of information that is given that is information overload. So I want to just give you the facts, move on from it, unless there's a breaking story. And then any other night besides that, it's going to be bonus. And times I haven't decided if I want to do earlier in the day or later at night. So you guys will have to give me feedback on what you prefer with that. That was a lot of information. Now my brain's all discombobulated trying to get Rumble up and going. I don't know what the deal was. I was even logged out of Rumble today, which is really weird because I never log out of Rumble, and I was logged out of it. So I don't know if it's Rumble having issues the entire day. Let's see, mute tab. And I hopefully my sound is okay, guys. Logical Parks, welcome. Mr. Duggar, I didn't see you pop in here. I miss your face. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's muted. Okay, gotta share. So anyway, tonight our topic is transgender and detransitioning. So there's a group of people that they target, and they intentionally target autistic kids, and there's a reason for that. It's because their brains work differently, and they know exactly how to reach them. And we're going to play some of the Aokanics. Hi, Michael. We're going to go through, and I feel like my camera changed on me for some reason. It did. I don't know what it changed to. We're going to have to fix that, but I'll fix that after we get going. We're going to start listening to what Maia has to say in the X space. She's on the spectrum, autistic, and she's going to explain to us her journey of how she thought that she needed to be a boy, but just realized that she was just gay, and that, I mean, she did the binding and all that stuff. But the way she explains it is probably better than me explaining it. I will be able to pause and add more to what she has to say, because I do have undercover footage of people, and I should have clipped this and had it ready and maybe played it. I wasn't thinking. But they were wargaming how to target, and this is in the Christian community, this is in the schools. They'd all gotten together at the Utah Gay Pride Center, and they were wargaming how they were going to target these kids, who were the best kids to target and to get into this kind of lifestyle. So it's very intentional, and it's very calculated. And I'll go into more detail into that. I do have this stuff of Maia pulled up, and I'll fix some stuff once it gets going. I don't know what the deal is. Okay, let's go share screen. Okay, let's see. Oh, they don't automatically add that screen anymore. That is a bonus. That is a huge bonus. And I'm going to up my X chat in just a second. I see you guys over there. I know a lot of people stream over to X, but they don't pay attention to the chat. It's like, what's the point if I can't see you? So we're unmute. Let me know if you guys can hear. All right, so we're going to rewind. Wait, they didn't play music. Is this a new one? Oh, this is 4:40. Okay, hold on. Hold on. I've got they ended up reopening it. I missed it. Okay, hold on. There we go. I didn't realize they reopened the space. I thought it died. Okay.
Come in before the song or someone else, I may ask them to pray over the space first. If not, then we'll roll with it. How are you? I want to say hello to Miss Maya and Jamie. How are you doing tonight, Maya?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Good. Ready to get this party started. That's for sure. Oh, just remembered somebody I need to go block. Jamie, how are Maya knows who I'm talking about. I totally forgot until just now. Hey, Jamie, how are you? Say hello for a minute.
Okay, I will. Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for coming in. Please repost the room. I'm sorry, I forgot to take my phone cover off. I'll do that in a minute. You'll be able to hear me better when I do. I'll just break your eardrums even more because I speak loud. All right. Please repost the space. We'd really appreciate it. And if you can, even quote post, that'll make it go a little bit further. And again, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate each and every one of you. You good girl? Hi, Maya.
Hey, Jamie. How are you?
I'm doing good. Really great to have you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your efforts.
All right, I am good. All right, let's let Matt have a mic. We are going to go in order. So, Matt, do not start raising your hand right now. One more time, you're in and out.
Oh, wait. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Oh, no. Okay, you're rubber banding. I did hear what you said, so that is fine. We will give it a little bit and see if our the rest of our team comes in, if they're available tonight. If not, then I'll definitely throw that to you. All right, I got the problem taken care of. We got quite a few people already in here, so I'm going to go ahead and start first and ask Matt. I did not ask you ahead of time. I apologize, but nothing like last minute, right? So, would you mind praying over the space tonight before I go to the song?
It'd be my pleasure. Thank you, Brandy. Father God, we come together tonight to in acknowledgement of who you are and what you've done and what you're capable of doing, and we just ask that you would protect the space, the people in it, everyone who will listen to this later. And we ask that all that is said and done in here tonight will point people to you and your character, your and why it is that we protect the children, because they are image bearers, much like all the rest of us, and because they are so precious. Um, you tell us that I pray that tonight we would not cause any of them to stumble in the faith as they are being taught, and as we protect the children from from all kinds of evils, as we preserve their innocence. I pray that we would just that we would you would give us strength. You would make us bold in in our faith to
Okay.
in you, that we would protect the children because of you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for that, Matt. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and play our song. We're gonna go over to Tom McDonald today. This definitely, you know, we
Why
always
is there
play the
no
War You Wanted.
sound?
That definitely hypes us up, but retweet this face.
America's falling locked up. Their freedom, great Britain. Scream it out into the streets. I promise. Island woke became a
Did it freeze?
disease. They made trillions off of mandatory lethal vaccines.
It's
The
gonna be one of these
slaves and half
days,
the
guys.
country is still taking a knee.
Mm.
Blacks and whites fighting over who.
I really wish they would fix the playback on here. Okay, guys, I'm coming. I don't know what the deal is here. Let's see that one. Why is this not pulling up? Can you see me on here? No, I'm here. There's something going on with the audio. I'm trying to figure out. I don't know why that I've had issues with replaying on my laptop for X Spaces, but it's really gotten on my last nerve because this is such an important space that needs to be played. Let's see. This is the one 223 tuned in. There's one space every single week that I want to play for you guys to get a broader audience, and this is the one. So we're gonna have Maya in here. Hopefully you guys can hear it now. Oh, good. I'm so glad you did, Logic Sparks. And I'll get you guys the links in here, okay? I think I accidentally plugged myself when I was trying to fix my camera
Maya.
because,
Hey, Jamie, how are you? Say hello.
we're gonna start over. Let's try this
Make
again,
your
guys.
eardrums even more because I speak loud. All right. Please repost the space. We'd really appreciate it. And if you can, I'm doing good.
So, Matt, do not start. Oh no.
Okay, I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna fast forward.
Okay, you're rubber banding already in here, so I'm gonna go where I go to the song.
Who you are, and we in front of our own.
I'm the first, and then we will shut it down at the end because I know we will be lit at the.
Oh my gosh, what just happened? If this doesn't work, then we're gonna switch to Epstein coverage, I swear. Is it not going now? 5:23. I can't take this today. I was so excited to stream this. I wonder if I can play the audio. I wonder if it plays through my phone. Let me see if I can. My phone's at 59%. Let me see if it'll play on my phone. If it is, I'll just hook my phone up to the soundboard. I play it through there. You just won't be able to see who's speaking, but I can try to find their accounts and put it up there for you. Let's see. X, Brandy. We're gonna try a workaround, guys. This is gonna be our workaround. Hopefully it's gonna work. Maybe I need to screen record it and then replay it. That might have to be how we're gonna do this. Let's see. I wish, there we go.
Already started.
Okay, it's gonna play through here. Okay, I'm gonna remove this for 1 second while I plug in my phone. Hopefully this is gonna work. I guess we could leave the people on on stage? Maybe I can do that. Click on it, push pause, and then you'll at least see who's in there speaking. That's actually a great idea. So let's click on that. That's who's in the space. And push play. Now it's going to play for real.
I'm gonna start.
The cigarettes, the
I'm gonna go to
across the globe, every country.
Okay, this is we're going to push pause. We'll see who at least the main speaker should be on the stage. Let me know if you guys can hear this through the phone. I probably don't have that one synced up. Oh my gosh, guys, I'm so sorry. This is a disaster of a live stream, but I guess it is what it is. Let's see, I need these all synced up. It's playing. I don't know why the audio is not playing through to you guys.
Father God, we come together tonight to in acknowledgement of who you are and what you've done and what you're capable of doing. And we just ask that you would protect the space, the people in it, everyone who will listen to this later. And we ask that all that is said and done in here tonight will point people to you and your character, and why it is that we protect the children, because they are image bearers, much like all the rest of us, and because they are so precious. You tell us that. I pray that tonight we would not cause any of them to stumble in the faith as they are being taught, and as we protect the children from all kinds of evils, as we preserve their innocence. I pray that we would just you would give us strength. You would make us bold in our faith to in you, that we would protect the children because of you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for that, Matt. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and play our song. We're gonna go over to
All right,
Tom
we're gonna
McDonald today.
skip these songs so I don't get copyright.
We always play the War You Wanted. That definitely one. Of course, you're welcome up. I don't know you, but I do want to say hello to everyone tonight. Thank y'all for joining us. Allie, definitely request a mic if you want it. Spartan, Jeremiah, definitely request a mic. Those of y'all that we know, of course, you're welcome up here now. So just want to say a big thank you, first of all, to Maia for coming in tonight. I do want to give a little bit of background for the reason that Shepherd's Watch feels the need to have this space and have Maia speak. And then I want to roll right into allowing her to introduce herself. But first of all, I want to say hello to our other co-host and get a mic check. How are you tonight, Jeremiah? You there and everything good?
Yep, sorry, wrong device. Everything's good. Doing homework with the kids, so I'm triple tasking at the moment.
I love it. Okay, cool. As long as we can hear you, because I know all of us are going to have questions. We're going to have comments we want to make, break in. So
Okay.
anyone on the
Sound
speaker
check
panel when
good.
Maya is speaking, if you have a question once she starts, definitely raise your hand up and then I'll get to you as soon as we can without interrupting her. Okay. I just want to make sure that we do stay on task as well, but we definitely want to get questions and answers.
All right, I'm just pushing pause for a second. I got it figured out. So I've just got the space pulled up. I'm going to keep it paused so that you can see who the main speakers are. I have no idea. There's something broke. It's pushing play now. Oh, my weirdness. Okay, we're going to push pause there. Okay, but at least you're going to see the speakers on there. I'm playing it through my phone, through the soundboard. So if there's sound issues, I just tested it out on YouTube. Sound is good, so we're good to go there. Sorry, Rumble people. Wish I could tell you to head over to YouTube or to X, but we don't. So we're going to let Brandy introduce everyone. Sorry for all the technical difficulties. This is just the way life goes sometimes. This information is too important to share. So we're going to power through it. So, all right, guys, if you have questions, please ask me. I am going to be pulling up my chat for X. Pull that up while this is going and then perfect.
Time period as well. Before I share the case studies that we wanted to share with you first, let me go ahead and go over to Zach. Say hello, brother. How are you tonight? And thank you for airing our space.
No. Okay. Ready to go.
Awesome. Can you tell me what
On Rumble, ZHP 316 at Rumble. Kick ZHP 316 underscore ZHP X. Facebook on ZHP X News HQ and X, of course.
Otherwise, Brandy.
Yeah, well, that's fake book. Awesome. Well, thank you for that, Zach. And I want to thank Sally for airing it. She will be live streaming this back tomorrow or after the space. Can't remember which one. But she's on Sally Talk with Sally as well on Rumble and I believe some other platforms. She can come up and share that here in a moment. But I just want to say that out loud so everyone is aware that when you take a microphone, you will not just be heard in this space. You will be heard on all other platforms. That's something I want to sharing and make before they grab.
Be our primary guest, but he couldn't
audio
make
is
it.
terrible.
And I understand why. He texted me in the background, but I have to let y'all know he was on a mission. He stopped his campaign to go out on a mission.
Why is
They were
my
able
live
to
stream?
wrestle the way to San Antonio. They rescued her. She is alive. She is safe. And I just want to bring a little feel good in here before all this took place. So, I mean, he's not only running for God, this is why we need him.
It definitely is. Thank you for sharing that. Praise God that they found her. And yes, that is why one of the main reasons we need him in Texas as well, guys. He is the only one that I've heard so far that actually is boots on the ground and does go help and find these children. So I want to thank you for sharing that. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing that this is off. And all right, well, I want to roll right in because I know Maya's got a lot to share. I
Is it not
also
playing,
did invite a few special
Jeannie?
guests in. They did not respond. Don't know if they will be able to show up. My co-host up there do not.
Okay, I'm pushing pause for just a second. You said that 2 minutes ago. Did it freeze? Is the audio not playing through? It was playing through just a second ago. I don't know if you're still there, Jenny. I guess I'll play it through my phone.
Know who they are, so if they request a mic, we will throw it to them. But I'm not going to share it with y'all yet, just in case they show up. They're really awesome people. So just like Maya. All right, Maya. Well, thank you so much for coming. I want to roll right into first off why the case studies that you heard today. Actually, Maya, this is so very important to us, and I'm already fidgeting myself in the background. All right, so for Shepherd's Watch, we received a few actual.
Okay, Jenny, I just checked and I am seeing everything playing. Everything's playing through my phone onto YouTube. So I don't know if it's on your end. I don't have it playing through actual share screen on the space because the audio keeps freezing on me. So I'm having to use my phone and I'm playing just the audio from the replay on there. So I can't share the screen. So I just have the space popped open so you can at least see who the main speakers on the stage. Maia Poet is the main one. Brandy is who works with the Shepherd Watch Foundation person. So maybe you're checking her out. So we'll continue playing this.
Actually, 3 within the last, now it's going to be close to a year. Prior to turning 17. 17 is the key number in these cases because of it being the age of consent. So why am I sharing that? Because in your state, it might be a lower number. So this is something that I want to make you aware of because a lot of the grooming we see occurs when it comes to special needs or what we call neurodivergent in our team. They follow them according to what the age of consent is in general. So if someone's age of consent is 16, they may actually start grooming them a little earlier so that they can gain their trust. At age of consent. Why is that important to those of us in this fight? Because once your children hit age of consent, it is harder for us to prove sex trafficking. And unless there is some type of evidence to prove they were groomed prior to that age of consent, there is little to nothing to go on that. So it is very important for us to educate you parents and others in the community so that you know what is happening to these kids and that you know what you can do to educate your children. So Maya, I want you to take it away. I want you to introduce yourself and thank you for spending your time with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show. Kudos to you for locating that vulnerable child. Your organization is doing really important work. So, you know, the reason I guess I'm speaking to you all today. Well, I'll just start off with a little introduction. My name is Maya. I am 26 years old, and for 12 years of my life, from the age of 12 to 24, I identified as transgender. I spent a lot of time, basically it was a good half of my life. By the time I realized that I was basically conned as a 12-year-old into believing something that was totally false, but met some needs for me at the time, and then ended up sort of screwing me pretty significantly, later on in ways that I was not entirely capable of understanding as a 12-year-old back in 2011, 2012, when I started binding my breasts in order to flatten them so as to appear as the opposite sex. I don't know how much you want me to go into my story, but, I've spoken about the intricacies of my story at length on multiple different podcasts. And so anyone who wants to, know the exact intricacies of it could listen to previous recorded spaces on this channel, or just, look me up on different interviews I've done. But the main reason that I thought it would be prudent to have this conversation is, of course, because I, alongside many of the other girls in my generation who got sort of caught up in the trans craze, a lot of us have ADHD or are on the autism spectrum, and those neurodevelopmental conditions certainly confer some real vulnerabilities in terms of not just like ideological grooming, but also grooming for the purposes of sexual abuse and sex trafficking and things of that nature. And so I just, in previous spaces I had discussed with Brandy and Jamie and some others, just highlighted just a few of the vulnerabilities I see that autistic kids have to all sorts of grooming and indoctrination. So I don't know if that's what we're going to discuss here today or what exactly is going to happen, but that's the little backstory and why I'm kind of here.
Well, thank you for that. And I just want to say that this is going to be your show. I want you to share with us whatever you feel is needed for the children and the parents to know. Why do I say children? Because the parents are going to take your information and they're going to go educate their children. And you will be aired on other platforms. So I want to make sure that our audience has enough of your story that you feel comfortable that they're able to follow the importance of this. Does that make sense to you? Does that help?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry. I love you though. She's like, dang it, you're going to make me repeat myself.
I know I've told this story like a million times. Okay, well, I guess I'll just give a little rundown. And you can ask me questions if there's some information that, this was 12 years of my life. So I don't know how in the world I'm going to summarize it.
Okay, can I start
even if I were
by
speaking
asking you
nonstop for a
questions?
day? Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
What first made you even believe that you were not in the right body, if that helps?
Well, even that question has a very complicated answer. But I will say that I as a kid I had a lot of developmental delays. I was born prematurely, and so I had some issues as a result of that, and I had a lot of developmental delays. And I guess not the least of which is that I was very confused about reality in a pretty fundamental way for a very long time. I would say that I grew up on the West Coast in a very liberal city, and so there would be transsexuals around. There weren't that many of them, so I'd heard of the term sex change, which we now know to be like a lie, because like these procedures don't actually change anyone's sex. They basically just alter superficial appearance of primary and secondary sex characteristics in a way that nixes the bodily function of those areas. But back then it was called the sex change when I was growing up. There was a radio show about what were called back in those days hermaphrodites. And there was this one story of a woman who'd basically been born with some kind of genetic anomaly.
I'm rewinding 10 seconds. Apologies. There was audio glitch.
In the car, and there was a radio show about what were called back in those days hermaphrodites. And there was this one story of a woman who'd basically been born with some kind of genetic anomaly, where like I think she was female, and she was raised as female, but she had a medical condition of some kind that made her genitalia a little bit ambiguous or something like that. And her parents had basically hid this condition from her.
I want to apologize. So I'm just trying to figure out, I haven't used the phone before. So I muted my mic on my computer so my mic wouldn't have feedback. So my apologies. I figured it out. I just rewinded it a second. But I want you guys to hear Maya's amazing story.
And she describes feeling really awkward in the locker room, and describes knowing that there was something about herself that was very different from the other girls. She didn't really understand them. And I don't remember exactly what it was she said, but those were the things I guess I took away from it as an 8 or 9 year old. And then I wondered whether or not I might be a hermaphrodite. And I started fixating on it and worrying that, maybe I too had had some kind of a medical condition that parents had hidden from me, because I also felt very different and from the other girls, and didn't really at all understand them. And that was before puberty or on the cusp of puberty. But I would say that even at a very young age, like I didn't entirely understand that I was a girl in any kind of permanent sense. And usually kids between the ages of 5 and 7, the ones who don't have a developmental delay, will realize between those ages that being a boy or being a girl is a fact about you that is independent of your hair length or the clothes that someone wears or the toys they play with or their hobbies, or for adults, their professions. If you're born a boy, you'll grow into a teenage boy and then into an adult man. And if you're a girl, if you cut your hair, you'll still be a girl, and you'll grow into a teenage girl, and then you'll grow into a woman. Most kids have that understanding. They achieve it around the ages of 5 to 7. In the 60s, it was called gender constancy. People refer to it as sex. And it's a development milestone, and it basically coincides with the development of a child's logical reasoning abilities, at least the beginnings of them. So I think part of what went wrong in my case is that, the same developmental delays that basically meant that I needed all sorts of therapy, different therapies on different my body just to get me to a baseline level of functioning. Those, developmental delays, probably also manifested in me not entirely understanding I was a girl in any kind of permanent sense until I probably
That's interesting because I'm listening to it on YouTube and the audio sounds just fine. So I'll switch over to text to see if so hopefully it's going to be okay. Figure it out.
I had a dentist tell me that I had 12 cavities and needed to get them all filled under general anesthesia, which scared me. So then that took up more of my time. And I didn't have my own internet connected device, so I couldn't search up, am I a hermaphrodite? How do I know if I'm a hermaphrodite? But for my 12th birthday, my parents gifted me an iPad. It was the first iPad. And somehow or other, either because I searched for it or because it was suggested to me, I ended up finding that there was such a thing as a sex change, but for women, that women could transition and become what I thought at the time were literally men, but actually are now I realize are just imitations of men. And I was, as a kid,
It's
around 8, 9 years old as well, really interested in really
on YouTube is playing
niche
flawless
medical conditions, like this one rare tumor on the pituitary gland of the brain that makes the world's tallest people the world's tallest people. And from that obsession, I learned that the pituitary gland also is responsible for the secretion of some sex hormones as well as growth hormone. And so when I started doing my research into this trans stuff, naturally the term sex hormones comes up. And so that kind of reminded me of my earlier obsession with the pituitary gland. And so, it started as like, I guess, an intellectual exploration of like, is it possible to modify the pituitary glands of trans patients so they don't need these exogenous hormones for the rest of their lives? It was a crackpot theory, I know, but I was like 12. And then it like casually just became became yet another like autistic hyperfixation. And I started to basically, I was really immersing myself in the narratives of these patients. Most of them were adults, and then around that time was emerging the idea of the trans kid. And I whatever in my mind kind of drew me to the story of the hermaphrodites when I was like 8 or 9 years old, or maybe I was even 10. I'm not sure, but it was like kind of before puberty or on the cusp of puberty. Whatever, I guess, stoked some curiosity in me back then, kind of like it reignited when I started to do more research of this condition. And so I just kind of went down and down the rabbit hole. On the internet, I was basically, there were sites like Tumblr that I sort of passively engaged with. I didn't post anything on there, but I kind of passively engaged at that time. And they were giving you all these tips about how you can bind your breasts so that you can, you're flat. I learned that there were all these types of surgeries, and that there was one surgery that was available to women with smaller breasts, and that they wouldn't have scars if they got the keyhole procedure rather than the double incision mastectomy. And so I basically decided to take that advice and thought that I was investing in my future ability to this man when presumably they would remove my breasts, and like, so that there wouldn't be scars there. I basically tried to flatten my breasts so that because in my 12-year-old mind, I thought that would prevent them from growing, so that I could, qualify as an adult, so I could qualify for the procedure that was laparoscopic and basically liposuction rather than the more invasive one with the scars. So I really did think I was investing in my future. I took advice online from different people about, how I could squash my breasts. And I did that for, on and off. I took a couple years off in my later adolescence, but it totaled to about 10 years that I spent binding my breasts. From the age of 12, roughly, for a solid 10-year stretch, I used different methods. All of them suggested to me by the internet as being 10, 12 hours a day. And of course, I've since realized that is all a lie. This practice of gender affirming breast binding has thoroughly disfigured my entire upper body. It has left me in a really significant amount of pain that I don't think any 26-year-old should be experiencing, that I'm kind of contending with and trying to figure out sort of how to remedy. But that's something I only figured out like over the course of the last couple of years. I was really very disassociated from my body until then, and was sort of unable to notice the extent of the damage. So that's one potential thread we could explore. And then I guess another one would be like, I know that the next question is going to be, how did you get out of it? So I'll just preempt it by just like answering it. And basically, parents, they really protected me back in 2012. They were like, no one who was even talking about this. This had not yet become the social contagion it is today, and the fad that it is today. I was really, I was forbidden from talking about it with anyone else. So I didn't spread the virus to anyone else, thank God. Did it all in my, there were no therapists, even gender affirming therapists for that matter, even the corrosive ones that just tell the kids that they're right about their mistaken worldviews that they've adopted out of absolutely no fault of their own. Even those types of caustic therapists didn't exist back then. There was no one. I had to deal with these thoughts by myself. And so they just kind of incubated there for a very long time. And when I basically turned 18, I got a normal breast binder from a supposedly safe company. Whereas before I was using all sorts of other DIY methods that were suggested to me by the internet. And, I did that. And then I went off to college. And in addition to the years of breast binding by that point, I had, socially transitioned to college, and my parents found out about it. And then basically, because they wanted to protect me, they basically And you know what? You need to study abroad. You need to get out of the West, study abroad in a non-Western country, to live undercover, kind of like stealth as a man, or at least where everyone, well, not everyone, but almost everyone thought I was a man. And I was like, I lived a crazy life. I was an Israeli Palestinian peace activist. I got to speak 4 languages every day. I just like, I had a really interesting time. But yeah, I continued to do damage to myself every single day with this medical device that is still being given away to kids in schools. It's actually very easy for kids to access these things. And, you know, there's so much focus on the hormones and the surgeries, and rightly so, because those are obviously unhealthy and disfiguring. But there's a step that comes before it for the girls, which is the breastfeeding, and significant multi-system damage that these girls being formed is even a possibility. Anyway, so I was doing that, and you know, I lived through a few terror attacks and wars in the Middle East that both of which, and I'm thinking of 2 in particular, one in May of 21 and the other one on October 7th of 23. And each of those wars and terror attacks basically forced me to question everything I knew to be true, especially with all the leftists in my circles who were just entirely promoting Islamic terrorism, and me trying to argue with them on the internet in between running from the apartment into the bomb shelter and then back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And when I wasn't arguing with them, and when I wasn't actively scared for my life, which I feel like for those 11 days I was, but I would argue with them on social media to try to, you know, take my mind off it. And of course, the more valid, you know, arguments I presented them with, that maybe it's like a bad idea to promote Islamic terrorism if you care about the Palestinians, they of course started just yelling very mean names at me and telling me that, you know, as I was running from rockets, that I was the one speaking from a place of privilege. Meanwhile, they were in some shops in California or wherever sipping on boba tea or some shit. So they didn't know what they were talking about. But my searches, my attempts to search, you know, for good kind of credible sources to underpin my arguments, of course, that like, and my searches were more on the pro-Israel side, which is apparently a right-wing position. The algorithm started to show me more content that was aligned with the right wing of the culture war. And so slowly but surely, I kind of started to see, you know, content that sort of criticized the mainstream left. And so I went down that rabbit hole for a while, and then eventually I stumbled across content that was critical of the trans movement, and I began an intellectual exploration of basically questioning everything I had known up until that point to be true. But that didn't impact the way I lived my life in any way. Because even as I started to realize that everything I had been told as a kid was a scam and a lie, I didn't know how to get out of it because I was already living this like double life. I'd sacrificed so much, moved to this new country, to live there kind of undocumented. And, you know, before I eventually became a citizen, and it was insane. So I was just like living these multiple double lives and did not know how to get out of it. But by then, but I was kind of disillusioned with the way I was living my life. And then I guess like the biggest breaking point for me was like waking up to sirens on October 7th of 23. And like at first I thought it was a joke, like not like a test. I thought they were just like testing the system. And I figured out pretty quickly that they weren't, because there were like multiple explosions after each siren, and the ground was shaking underneath me. And I was scared for my life. And I just had once I realized that this was for real, I had a very quick moment to make a decision. And that decision was really like, you know, do I put on this breast binder that allowing to pass a man in the shelter know me that way? And that's and it's a garment that, or it's a medical device that it's very hard to put on your body in general. But if you've just gotten out of the shower, or if you're sweaty and you're sweating because you're nervous, it takes a very long time to put on. So it really was.
Okay, I'm pushing pause for 3 seconds because this is what I need to do. I'm going to try doing a reset of the screen again. I don't know what the deal is. It's not streaming to Rumble. YouTube is streaming to just fine with the audio. I did go log into X on my other phone with the earbud in, and it is skipping just a minute. I went through and closed a bunch of making sure I don't have any windows opened. It's really weird. I was logged all of my accounts. So someone tried to get into my computer. I don't know how or why. I was on vacation. I didn't even turn it on while I was on vacation. Very weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a refresh. The stream's going to pause for, I said, Mike, sorry, Mike. I was reading from further away. My computer's turned sideways. Anyway, apologize. So I'm going to do a refresh. I've got everything shut down. So I don't know why it's choppy on X, but I really do want you guys to hear this story. It really is amazing. So give me just 3 seconds. I'm going to hit the refresh button. Hopefully I don't have to. I wonder if I should just do a restart of my computer completely. It'll take about 60 seconds. You know what? I'm going to do a complete restart. No, I don't want to restart. Do I want to do restart? Let's try refresh first because that'll be quicker. And then we'll go from there. I've got all the windows closed. I went through and made sure that nothing's open in the background. I really don't know what the deal is, but it's not happening over on YouTube, and everything's up to date on my end on my phone, and it's choppy. So 30 seconds, guys. It's going to be black. I'll be right back. Okay, I am here. So let's get our. Maybe I won't share the screen. We'll just play audio. See what that does.
Like, knowing this, I really was like, okay, like obviously I was sweating and nervous and my hands were shaking. And so I really like did have to make this decision of like, do I put this thing on so that I can continue to pass as a man in the bomb shelter? Or do I just run for my life and save myself? And so when faced with that choice, I basically prioritized survival over identity. And I didn't put the binder on. And that entire day, I just kept making the same choice. Partially because you never know when there's going to be another siren. And so you don't want to be caught during the wrong moment, trying to wriggle yourself into this really tight kind of like compression device that squeezes your entire upper body and makes it hard for you to breathe. And like the rest of that day, we were getting like more notice that there were terrorists that were like bursting into the bomb shelters and the safe rooms and just killing everyone inside. And no one was telling us how far they had made it out of the Gaza envelope. Like it was a horrendous day. It was, I don't want to, kind of trauma dump too much, but it was like living through the horrors of that day where, I mean, on multiple occasions, I sort of made a pact to myself, which was like, if I survive this, like I'm going to just, I'm going to detransition, because like I kind of was doubting it and questioning it for a couple of years, but like I was so held back by this notion of like, well, I've been like high-fiving all these like Orthodox Jewish guys and Palestinian guys who think I'm a man, and that would like break their religious convictions, and like I had concerns for my own safety because I was spending a lot of time in the West Bank, and some of those people didn't know I was a Jew. I mean, some of them did, some of them didn't, because I speak Arabic, and like I don't know, there's a lot going on, and I kept like trying to convince myself that it was still feasible to live this way, even though I had some doubts. But then on October 7th, I just like decided to just like cede to my doubts Especially because, like, I guess I was too scared to. I guess I was just like too existentially terrified to even, think about these first world issues. And there was a lot going on, I guess, for me that day. It was, yeah, it was just really earth shattering, really horrific day. And I was, I guess, also like, I guess during that time, I did sort of realize that, like, there is really no point in like trying to further encumber my bodily functions. Like, I was already born with all these developed I had braces as a kid to correct toe walking, because my muscles are really tight, and so certain physical activities are already difficult for me as is. And then on top of that, wearing the binder like really would have made running for my life like impossible. And I think that on some level, I sort of understood that, because even as uncomfortable as it was to run around and fear for my life, without the binder that I was so used to, and that it had compression. The compression was destroying me, but it was also soothing me from a sensory standpoint. So, like, I didn't understand how much damage I was doing to myself, and that's where the autism bit comes in. I mean, that's one area, but I did sort of at the end of that realize, like, you know what, like I it was one thing to have this intellectual exploration in the wake of the algorithms shifting the content I was seeing, in the wake of May of 21, the rocket attacks of May of 21. That was just an intellectual exploration. But in order, I think, for me to realize it viscerally and not just intellectually and like in an embodied way, it was really like, yeah, I mean, it was October 7th. I realized, like, everything I was taught as a kid is a lie. Like, my female body in its healthy state, or in its healthiest possible state, is not a pathology that needs to be fought. It is important to have your body remain as intact as possible, because you never know when a bunch of terrorists are going to go rampaging through your country and slaughtering people, and at the same time shooting rockets in your direction. Um,
Michael, are you, or Micah? Michael? Mike, are you asking me to interject? Maya? I don't want to interject while she's speaking. Love you though.
and you need to be nimble and you need to be quick, because all the odds are against you. So then I came back to the States, and I had like a couple major traumatic things to recover from. Especially once I figured out that I would have been at that music festival had my sober ride not fallen through, and I lost people on that day, as did most Israelis. So there was like a lot that I had to deal with, kind of coming back to the States, and in the wake of that, I guess, I don't know. I guess I just decided to try to make something of myself. I didn't want what I'd been through, I guess, um to be in vain, and with any of it. And so I sort of started telling my story, and from that point, a lot of both good and bad things have happened in my life. I've been, ruthlessly threatened and doxxed, and sent death threats by all sorts of people who don't want me to tell my story, who think that my story is, somehow akin to me harming them, as trans people, which I hold great contention with, because detransitioners could argue that trans people telling their stories harmed us. So, but actually, that's not even an argument I use. So it would be just as dumb, for them to make that claim. But honestly, I think that if people are allowed to tell their stories to an audience full of vulnerable children who are impressionable, that transition saved their lives and that they would have killed themselves had they not done it, then people like me and my friends should be able to share our stories of how we found this to be harmful, how this wasn't our only path to happiness, how we were sold a lie, and how we were hurt by it, damaged in many ways, irreparably, irreversibly, in ways that we could not have even begun to understand at that time. as vulnerable kids, and that, like,
Okay. I think I might have fixed what the problem was. Apparently, there was StreamYard opened on a different screen, which for whatever reason it does cause issues. Hopefully, that clears up the audio for X. It's been working just fine on YouTube, so I hopefully it fixes it. We're gonna cross our fingers, crossing our fingers here.
if they get to tell their stories and influence young kids, then surely the rules of fairness and charity would mean that those of us who feel we've been harmed grievously and have lost years of our lives, bodily functions, functional body parts, relationships, whatever it might be, that we should be able to tell our stories too. So that's sort of part of why I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Wow. You gave more than I've heard so far from you, and today actually. So I want to thank you for sharing that, because you've been through a whole lot more than I heard today, and I already heard. It was a lot. I want to say thank you because you're right. Sharing your story, number one, is your right, and you'll always have a platform in any space we're hosting or co-hosting. So I can promise you that. Number two, I want to say I do want to go ahead and open up for questions, but I do want to say that you educating is so very important, because for all we know, we have people down in the basement, right? There could be someone listening right now anonymously, or maybe on the replay, that is struggling with this exact same thing and doesn't want to share that publicly, and you might just influence them to take control of what's going on with them, and find what they need to get to be okay with who they are and not have to change. So I want to thank you for that, Maya, because you already know that you influence people, and you're a very brave, courageous young woman. I believe that we need more your age out there speaking. I know we have one with his hand up that is close to that, so I'm going to let Matt go in a minute. But that we need more. We need more 20s, 30s, people coming out and speaking out against these things. And again, I just want to thank you again so very much. And go ahead, y'all, and request a mic if you want to come up and talk to Maya and ask questions. Maya, if someone requests a mic that knows you, I want to say this on the mic. I know you can't see who's requesting, but if anyone
Testing
that
to
knows
see if my
Maya
vote.
and we do
Yep,
not
it's
know
wrong
you
still.
wants to request a mic, please let her know so that she can let us know so we can give you a mic. Because if we don't know you, you will not be coming up if your profile isn't vetted completely yet. So 2 or 3 minutes to vet your profile if you're asking for a mic and we don't know you. And again, if you know Maya, please request it through her. That will make it faster. All right. Well, I want to go to Rob V first. And hello, Robert. I hardly ever see in this space. I'm so happy to see you. How are you, brother?
It's good to see you, my friend. Thank you for having me up. And as you know, I'm dealing with some medical stuff with my mom, and there was some good news today. Maybe I'll tell you about that later. But I want to keep the space on the topic at hand. And I was really excited to kind of fan out a little bit because Maya, if I can, I know you have no idea who I am, but I am a fan of yours, and I've been following you, I think, roughly about a year or so. I love your testimony. I love everything you're saying, and Brandy is right. We do need more folks who are going to speak out exactly in the capacity that you have, because you have literally experienced the terrors of what can happen with folks who are pushed in a direction that could be potentially damaging to their lives. And just I had kids around 2013 and 2015. And around that time, I had a political awakening, and I was watching a lot of different things on YouTube and going down rabbit holes, mostly like libertarianism and that kind of avenue.
I'm going to have to refresh my screen because it's frozen. So give me just a second, guys. There must be a glitch with StreamYard. Hopefully this fixes. All right, we got me back on stage. So let's give this another try. At least I've been here a million times, so I know how to refresh and get it back going. Here we go, guys.
But I noticed on YouTube that there were also a lot of folks who were just really starting to really push transgenderism and really push it on young, impressionable minds. And I was blown away by this. And it's one reason why I am a lot more involved now in the political scene than I was in my previous adult life. I had always followed politics, but never nearly as closely as I do today. And yeah, just seeing some of that stuff. I had kids, and I was like, I have to get involved in some way. I didn't know what that looked like. When I started seeing folks like yourself start to come out and tell your story of detransition, it just is so heroic to me, and I absolutely love it. I'm sure you're familiar, possibly with, and Brandy's going to kill me because I harp on this all the time. I'm sure you're familiar with the Skermetti case, and the Skermetti case came out of Tennessee, and it was my state senator, Jack Johnson, who's the Senate Majority Leader, who sponsored Senate Bill 1 in 2023, which prevents states from, well, it allows states to prevent underage transgender modifications in any capacity whatsoever. And I think that's really good, solid legislation. They had to kind of go to the drawing board on it because it had been attempted in other states, but they were able to word it in a capacity where they knew it was going to get challenged all the way to the Supreme Court. And Skermetti, who's the Attorney General for the state of Tennessee, he was very excited to be able to argue that case for the state at the Supreme Court, and he's also in my county as well as as Senator Johnson. But just to try and wrap this up in a bow, so I'm not sitting here taking up all of Randy's space. I had an idea, and I'm curious also what you think of it. And I know I've thrown a bunch of stuff at you here as well. The Transgender Awareness Day is on March 31st, and I've pitched this idea to a couple different state reps in different states, notably here in Tennessee as well as in Kentucky, and they found it to be intriguing and interesting. I wonder if it would be a good idea to have a day that is an awareness day for detransitioners, and you have it on March 30th, and you make it a day so that folks like yourself can speak out, give your testimony, and potentially warn others who are going down a path that could potentially impact their lives to a very high level. I guess I'll stop at that, and I'll listen to what you have to say. And again, thanks so much for everything that you're doing, and I love you. I love following you.
Thank you. So I can't see who's speaking. Can someone tell me who that was?
Yes, that was Rob.
That was
V.
Rob.
Oh, cool. Rob V. Okay. RGV Liberty. Okay, cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're following each other. So it's interesting that you should bring that up, Rob, because actually there is D-Trans Awareness Day. It's on March 12th. Some of us are going to be in DC. Actually, a lot of us are going to be in DC. I'll put the link to that event up there because, members of the public can purchase tickets and attend as well. And so we are going to have an event in DC with a bunch of detransitioners, and they're going to be, presumably some panels or some discussions, or, I'm not sure of all the details yet, but going to be a huge gathering, and it's for safety reasons, not going to be like just like out in the middle of some town square, because we know that could end very, very poorly. And the real violence that's happening, I'd say, against anyone in the in any movement that has the word trans on it is probably against detransitioners. There's a lot of, in terms of identity-based violence or group belonging-based violence. It's a really significant problem. And it's not to say that every single trans person hates detransitioners. I've met many who don't, and who see us as kind of one and the same, but we've just veered off into two different paths. But there's certainly a large part of the trans community that is quite violent towards us. And they claim it's because there's certain transitioners who are transphobic, who basically they were sold a lie rather than.
I do want to welcome Maya. She's actually in the chat on X. If you guys want to join in on the chat, you can go chat with her. And if you have any questions, you probably can chat with her and she can answer them. So it's really good to have you here, Maya. Your voice sounds just fine. I've been having audio issues. So the first 45 minutes of this live stream has been a crap show, but we muster through. This message is so important. So I do want to thank you I want to thank you for sharing your story. People need to understand how our autistic people are targeted. I have undercover footage in Utah of them specifically targeting this group of people. And I need you to be able to tell me why they do. I know in my head, for whatever reason, I'm just discombobulated from trying to get, I don't know. You guys would have to know when you set up a live stream and you're all ready to go, you're excited, and then you have 40 minutes of audio issues, internet issues. It's not a connection issue on my end. I have fiber. I have really, really fast internet. Could be something with my computer. I did travel. However, I didn't turn on my computer. So it's really weird that I'm having computer issues. So anyway, thank you, Maya, for being here. I do appreciate it. And anyway, yeah.
Adopting the belief that, this could work for some people, but it didn't for me. And you have to use all these, qualifiers and disqualifiers to sort of virtue signal that, you think that maybe some kids should be able to have their genitals lopped off, but that maybe it wouldn't have been good for you when you were a kid or whatever. Like if you don't toe that line, then they automatically assume that you hate them. And then they will often respond with violence. Most, but not all.
Yeah, I forgot one last point if I can. Sorry to jump back in. The other side of the coin of this is, in the research and the rabbit holes that I went down, is that gender dysphoria is a very, very real thing. And there are people who suffer from it, and there are people who benefit from transitioning. And I feel like people who have taken this and they've made it a trendy thing or chic or popular in some way, it is such a perversion of something that is supposed to genuinely help people with a serious mental issue. There is another side of the coin of that, because I see people, particularly on the right, who say stuff like, we want to completely ban this from, anybody being able to transition. I'm like, that's not the answer. That's not the answer. Honestly, if there's someone who is an adult and they are of sound mind and body and they wish to do something to their body, go for it. But I am really big on, you leave the kids alone.
Thank you for that, Rob. Absolutely. And that's why we do this space. You do not mess with the kids whatsoever. I want to go. I saw Allie's hand up, and Matt, I want to go over. Matt, I'm going to put you on hold real quick. Allie, our honorary co-host of the space, has got her hand up.
And so also, my friend Sven is also requesting.
Okay, he's got a mic. Yes.
Oh, does he? Okay, it's glitching. That's fine. Cool.
Yes. Now I do see a Jennifer Thomas requesting a mic. Do you know her?
I know her. Yeah, I know her. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll give her a mic as well. All right, go ahead, Miss Allie.
Thank you, Brandy, and thank you, Maya, for sharing your story. Like Brandy, I've heard you share your story before, but I think there's been additional pieces and layers that we've never heard before, and it just is a testament to who you are.
I kind of crack up because I've heard Maya's story. I don't know if you're still in the chat, but I've heard her story probably like 15, 20, 30 times. And every single time her story, it kind of moves me, and I'm in awe. but to understand like the thought process and what you're going through, and to be able to articulate it in a way is be like, okay, I don't really want to be a man. I just like women. I'm gay, and there's nothing wrong with recognizing that. And I think there are a lot of people who are convincing kids that they are in the wrong body. And I think that she explains it. I don't know if she explained it yet. Maybe I'll wait and listen a little bit to see if she explained that. Oh, Maya, this I remember you doing a space about this, and I don't even think it was recorded, but it was maybe I do have it recorded. I'll have to go look and see. But where she talked about you when you're going through puberty, you're going through your menstrual cycle, or you're a man and you're going through different changes, and you're already, and we all were that age, and it's weird, and you're going through hormones and everything just feels so weird. And normally we have people just tell you, oh, this is normal behavior. Yet there's teachers, there's various individuals who target certain people that convince them that it's not normal, that they're in the wrong body, and somehow they can change the way they are by either taking hormones or by having drastic surgery. And it's very intentional that the way that they target this group. And we'll continue to listen, but I hope she talks a little bit about that, and maybe she doesn't hear. But to understand the psychology of it is crazy. Maybe I'll have her on a guest, and we can dive deeper into some of the other stuff behind it all.
And your story and just the impact that you have with the perspective that you bring. One of the questions that I had, well, I'll start with this. I find it interesting that that the only time that the advice for medical professionals to either transition children surgically changed wasn't due to science. It was due to getting sued and having a medical malpractice lawsuit that actually went through successfully. And then you see the American Plastic Surgery Association or Plastic Surgeon Association then change their guidance on transition surgery. So I found that interesting because the science didn't change, the liability did. And that's where I take issue with a lot of these concepts, in the fact that they talk about it on one side of their mouth, that it's rooted in science, it's rooted in fact, it's rooted in all of these things. But then, the other side is that the science didn't change, the liability did. And so it's just interesting to see that guidance change. But what I wanted to ask you was, we talk a lot about the children that want to transition or have been compelled or manipulated, tricked into transitioning, but I don't think we ever talk too much, or at least in the spaces I've been in, about the parents that decide that they want to transition their kids. Whether their kids actually say that they want to transition or not, there's an aspect and a facet of this where the parents themselves actually have some sort of, issue, whether it's psychological, mental, social, whatever. But we've seen a group or a subsection of parents that actually not only want to transition their kids, expose their children to provocative shows, that if you took them into things of that nature in a strip club environment, you'd get social services called on you. But if it's in the street under the guise of a different title, then it's okay. So I really want to get your perspective on the parents' influence and what your thoughts are on the situations in which the parents are actually pushing the transing of their kids, whether or not their kids are actually even interested in it.
Yeah, I've actually done some research into this, right? And so I actually don't think it's as simple as just that, like, all of these parents who are transitioning their kids are doing so out of malicious reasons. I mean, I think some of them are definitely self serving, but there are others who transition their very young kids, in particular, because they got really bad advice from a pediatrician. Um, and I've actually, profiled some of these stories. I'm looking for one of those threads that I've made now. And it went pretty viral like a year and a half ago or something, because Elon Musk quote tweeted it. I wrote this thread for a fantastic organization whom you should all follow as well. Restore Childhood. This is the thread. I've done a few of these others. I can put them up in the Jumbotron at some later point. But basically, a theme I've noticed throughout a lot of these stories is that even the parents who have become like really kind of what could be easily seen as like deranged, self-serving activists who are transitioning their kids for activist reasons, a lot of these parents, not all, but a lot of these parents started out as being very skeptical when, upon seeing that their toddler son an interest in playing dress up in his sister's dress up clothes for a bit too long, for them to think that it was just a normal phase. They of course take the kid to the pediatrician because they think there's a problem, because they think that a kid playing an atypical type of dress up is a problem that needs a pediatrician. Like, they're scared about what this could mean for their kid's future. If this boy stays very effeminate, like what is that going to mean for his future, right? They want to know if there's something that's really wrong. And because they have a certain level of neuroses about their child's distress, or they're very attuned to their own distress, in particular about their child's future. Common theme is that they'll take their toddler or maybe kindergartner to a pediatrician. And this was back in this would have been back in like, the 2010s, and even a few cases in the early 2000s, at least in the United States. They'd take their kids to a pediatrician, and the pediatrician would say, "It seems like your kid has gender identity disorder. I'm going to refer you to a gender specialist." And the gender specialist, and sometimes it'd be actually even just a pediatrician, depending on the case, would basically say, like, here's what's going to happen to your kid, is that if you don't allow them to live as the opposite sex, there's a high chance that they could basically hit puberty and kill themselves. And we're talking about even parents of toddlers were given this advice, even though it was well known, based on literature coming out of Canada at that time, that at least with the boys, the vast majority of these boys who had prepubertal onset gender dysphoria, for them it resolved with puberty. And so there was also this experiment going on in the Netherlands about transing kids, and at first it started. They basically, in the Netherlands, they were the first to develop a protocol in which at first it was adolescents around the age of 16 and older being given cross-sex hormones in the late 80s. And then by the early to mid 90s, they had decided to create this experimental protocol with giving little kids, who had just begun puberty, who were at standard stage 2 of puberty, a puberty blocker, and then supplement it with cross-sex hormones. So before we'd even gotten the results on those first studies coming out of the Netherlands, the experiment was basically prematurely declared to be a success. And so there were some clinicians, namely this guy Norman Spack, who basically saw what they were doing in the Netherlands, thought it was a great idea, and wanted to try it at Boston Children's Hospital. And so then the advice that parents were given was that, if your kid is making statements, not that like I want to be a girl if they're a boy, but I am a girl, that means that this kid is probably going to have the type of gender dysphoria that's just not going to go away. So you need to raise them as the opposite sex. And then at the onset of puberty, give them puberty blockers. These parents were told that this, of course, is reversible, and that it would buy the kids a few more years of time to think about whether or not they'd like to be permanently sterilized so as to live as an imitation of the opposite sex. Of course, we know that these drugs are not reversible and that they come with all sorts of damaging side effects. But these parents were basically given.
Okay, I've got to pause there right there, because this is the thing that they're not telling these people that are wanting to transition. And it's called informed consent. They're not informing them that this is not reversible. And the amount of people that have long-term complications is like 99.9% of the people. And it might even be 100, but I don't want to be like hyperbolic with that number. It's not reversible. They're 100% guaranteed they are not going to have kids. And I've heard so many stories of people where they have health issues. They have liver issues, kidney issues, other kinds of issues that have come out that they cannot fix. And they do have the medical codes that allow them to get the transition surgeries and the hormones and all of this stuff. But what they don't have, if you decide, hey, you know what? I've changed my mind. I no longer want to take these hormones. I just want to get off of them. There's no code for the doctors to help them do that. They haven't done the research to be able to reverse course. So once you take hormones, your health it's not reversible, guys. If you're a man and you decide you're take estrogen, you're going to have lifetime health complications. If you're a female and you're taking testosterone, you're going to have lifetime complications from it. And there's no mental health code. There's no doctor code that's going to help you get through this process. So we have Maia Poet here, and then we also have, oh my gosh, we have her name is Gabriella. I'm going to go look up her link and I'll put it down below the screen. And I'm also going to put Maya's handle below also. Oh my gosh, Maya, do you know Gabriella's? It starts with a C. I don't know if I'll remember, but anyway, hopefully, all right, I'm gonna let her finish because my brain is going because there's so much going through my head right now because I know so much about this, but I haven't transitioned. I don't have kids that have transitioned. I haven't been through it, but I've spoken to many people that have had their kids go through it. Gabriella, she created a program based off of her helping her daughter to overcome it and to get through it. There is help out there. There are tools out there for you guys to help your children. And it starts with educating your children before the school teachers start indoctrinating your kids. And it's not just the school teachers, it's the church counselors, it's sending them off to summer camp. There's all kinds of ways that your kids can be convinced that they're in the wrong body. And the only way to fix it is to become the opposite gender. Right? That's not necessarily always a thing. I don't even know if I could talk about this topic on YouTube, but I'm talking about it because it is that important of a topic to talk about. So that's why I wish Rumble was up right now. Let's let Maya finish, and I'm going to go pull up some links for you guys. I'm going to put it underneath the screen up here so you can see it. You can take a screenshot. I'll post it in both chats on YouTube and on X Live.
Only like the one next step of what they were signing their kids up for. They were told that like if they didn't socially transition their kids, that the kid was going to be really unhappy, and then puberty would hit, and potential suicidality. But there's this really non-invasive way these kids, give them this Medicaid, supposedly reversible, and has been used in kids who have precocious puberty, so they don't have a healthy puberty. And there's some other uses, and whatever they said it's safe, it's fine. It just buys the kids time to think. So what these parents were not told, actually, was that there are millions of possible reasons that your son wants to play dressed up as a princess. Maybe he has an older sister he admires. It's not a problem. And if you were to take our advice, you could be very well cementing a cross-sex identity that would have otherwise, just like as the kid grew up and achieved new developmental milestones, including pubertal development, that this is something that they're very likely to grow out of. But if you start raising your boy as a girl, he led to fear his own male puberty, fear growing up, and then once you've convinced him and all of his friends that he's actually a girl, well, then you're going to need to put him on these sterilizing hormones. And once you've cemented that type of an identity, there really is very little chance of them disembarking from that trajectory. So these parents were only basically told the one next step, rather than if you do this first step that we're telling you you must do, it's going to invariably lead to all of these other cascading steps. And then, of course, these parents, none of these parents wanted their kids to be alone, wanted their kids to have rights, because they genuinely believed that it was like either this or suicide. And a lot of these parents, including the ones I put up in the Jumbotron, who became like really famous activists who are really unhinged, honestly. If you look at some of the videos I put up in that thread, they started out as very skeptical, actually, that their son might outgrow his love of tutus, and so why buy him something he's not going to wear more than once, right? They started out that skeptical, but then after the visit to like a pediatrician, they basically moved their entire family to a different town, let the kid's hair grow out over the summer, and then enrolled him in a different school as a girl, and basically sacrificed a lot of their family relationships because their family didn't support this, but the doctors told them that, oh, it's just your other family members don't understand, and so if they can't get on board, it's going to compromise your child's mental health. So that's sort of how it started. And then these parents believed that genuinely believed they were fighting for their kids' lives, and they started becoming advocates. And so before there was a social contagion with the teenagers, there was a social contagion amongst the parents. And then it seems like, at some point in time, there were, teenage girls. And I mean, arguably, there was a sort of social contagion with the teenage girls on sort of declaring trans identities around adolescence. One could even say that this started like in the maybe early to mid 2000s. So earlier than most people attribute this spike to. And there was a big spike in 2014 or 2015. But the beginnings of this phenomenon with the teenage girls began in the earlier 2000s. And it really skyrocketed, I guess, when you just started putting smartphones and giving adolescent girls like internet connected devices and just connecting them to the entire world and exposing them to all sorts of types of information. There was a culture war that was fully underway. There was gay marriage was achieved. And then these organizations they basically needed to figure out a way to keep their lights on and to keep their people employed. And there were other activist efforts that basically were able to really successfully use those organizations and that infrastructure, as well as, some of they'd done some medical lobbying and like there's a lot that got us to the point where we are today. But it seemed like that it was a perfect storm of factors for this to become something that was more mainstream in the zeitgeist. And we know that, who is the largest contributor of new words to any language in terms of slang? It's teenage girls. Like teenage girls, basically, they have a culture of their own. They are really good at, inventing trends and hopping onto trends. And, this is just something that they seem to be developmentally primed for. And they're also a very vulnerable category because they, as opposed to, boys, like teenage girls, basically all their hormonal shifts and all the things they're going through developmentally predispose them to experience really high levels of negative emotion. And so they become vulnerable to all sorts of issues, including eating disorders and body dysmorphic disorders and all the rest of it. So, if you give them an escape if you give them an escape from all sorts of things that they perhaps don't like the prospect of about growing into an adult woman, there are so many reasons why a teenage girl could latch onto this. And for the autistic subgroup, like I've written a lot of essays about this. So anyone who's interested in some of my thoughts about some of the reasons why autistic girls are uniquely vulnerable as a subgroup to this phenomenon, and we've seen that borne out in the literature and in clinical reports. I'll put those essays up in the Jumbotron, but that's sort of what I think about some of the parents. But you do see like in Hollywood that there's clearly like a handbag, trans kid is a handbag type of, phenomenon. But I'd say that a lot of the parents who started out doing this, and who, by the way, as it's been noted by many thinkers in this space, not the least of which is the brilliant Helen Joyce, that those parents are going to be the ones basically like fighting for these types of practices to continue, because of course they're never going to be able to admit that they too were sold a lie that has potentially grievously harmed their kids. So, it's very complex. So there's both the parents who seem to like basically care more about their own narcissistic fulfillment than they do about the health and bodily integrity of their own kids. But there are also a lot of parents of very young children who were really duped by medical professionals. And their biggest crime, honestly, was just their lack of critical thinking skills and that they trusted institutions that all Americans were taught to trust. That's not a, that's a, if you consider that to be a crime, then that's a crime that we're all capable of. It's really important
Well,
to be
and
vigilant.
you're spot on, Maya, because I mean, one of the most brilliant minds in the world, Elon Musk, actually, ingested and fell for the same dialogue and the same, you know, thing that you were outlining there. Two things. I know it doesn't really relate to your story particularly, but Brandy had posted in the nest about Matt, and his story is extremely fascinating. Yours is too. I'm not comparing the two, but two things I find interesting that he called out in the space was one, the differences between the hormones that he received when he was in the US versus getting hormones outside of the US, and how they made him feel and how different it made him feel. And it just takes me back to the food that we ingest, the things at our disposal, and how different that they are. It could be the same, um, have the same name, the same, seemingly the same chemical composition, but it's completely different outcome and different feelings and different side effects. And the other thing that he noted was the stark difference between male to female versus female to male transition. So I thought those two aspects of that were very interesting. But thank you so much.
I love it. And you know what? You truly, Maya, are helping all of us in this fight because you're helping us understand a lot of aspects that we can't just ask anyone. So thank you for totally thank you for making yourself available and being in this fight. So I do want to go to Matt, and we have quite a few hands. We're going to go to Matt first, and then I'm going to go ask the questions that came from the bubble so that you can answer those. Then we'll go back to the other hands. All right. So I have a feeling we may go over a little bit. So if the co-hosts are okay with that, if not, we might have to switch some co-hosts. But I want to make sure that we get everyone's questions answered, and that Maya is able to, help anyone in here that might have a question. All right,
Brandy, I
Matt,
want to.
go ahead, Jamie.
Well, I want to comment real quick on what was just talked about. Because if you know about psychology, some of what we're talking about really does surf very closely to Munchausen by proxy. Not exactly, but it does surf very close to that. And that's particularly concerned with some of the nonverbal autism. Like you're speaking for a child that can't speak for themselves. You're doing something radical to their body. But another thing I wanted to bring up is, Maya, we spoke about this in another space, is also another element of this is, okay, me as a female, as a little girl, I can tell you right now, when I started to get girl parts, it's a very difficult stage in a little girl's life. You're like, ugh, very uncomfortable in your own body. And I think that they're, attaching on to that already uncomfortable stage. And then we have the fact of all these hormones in our foods making little girls develop even faster. And they're having to deal with this mental challenge of going through that earlier than we used to have to. I think, as we discussed the other night, I think that's another added element to this issue where they latch on to the idea of, oh, I must not be in the right body because I feel so uncomfortable in my own body. And it's just part of growing up that it is natural, but they're acting like it's not natural. So, I just wanted to bring that up too, because we discussed it the other day.
Yeah, and for the kid, it's like, of course, they're not going to think it's natural to experience discomfort during puberty. This is their first time at life. They haven't experienced anything different, which is also why when parents are like, telling their kids who are like, I think I'm so uncomfortable in my body, and it's because I was born in the wrong one, and the parent is like, well, everyone's uncomfortable. in their bodies during puberty. There's a reason why that's actually not going to change the kid's mind about that, which is that it's not about all the other kids. It's about, me and this pain that I'm living in, and I'm trying to tell it to you. You're my caregivers. I want you to listen to me and to listen to what I'm going through. And so, like, the truth is that also in some of these cases, like when we're dealing with some of these autistic issues, it's really important to understand that we're talking about something that is in many ways that goes in many ways beyond just like expected pubertal discomfort. Especially like, we know that hormones.
Puberless comfort? I don't know what that means. So I think is she saying that so you want puberless comfort. So if you don't go through puberty, you're going to have comfort. I think maybe that's what she's saying.
Alter so much of our functioning, and there are a couple of weeks during a woman's menstrual cycle when she's more prone to clumsiness, more prone to falling down and having accidents, like physical accidents and things like that. And it's because our hormones impact our balance. And now imagine that you are an autistic girl, and maybe you're diagnosed, maybe you're not, and you have you have issues with motor skills. It's hard for you to do things like, with fine motor skills. It's hard for you to balance properly. It's hard for you to understand where your body parts are in relation to each other, in relation to other people. These are challenges that are very common in kids who have neurodevelopmental differences and disabilities, and that could be autism or ADHD or something else to that effect. And then you have puberty that starts, and then suddenly this kid who's already maybe not particularly athletic, her entire center of gravity shifts. And so there are certain types of physical activity that might have been the only things that she used to be able to do with all of her issues, motor skill issues. And now it's changed the way that it's now she can't do those things even. And some of those functions that she's had to learn with a lot of diligence and effort, and usually in the therapeutic context, or perhaps in the therapeutic context, those skills might basically disappear. And she might have to relearn how to do some of those things. I know I had to relearn a lot of different skills, basically when I hit puberty and my hormones did all sorts of weird things, and my neurological symptoms actually got worse. I started needing glasses. What was once intermittent strabismus turned into an ever-present lazy eye. And with that, my visual perception problems just got significantly worse, my balance, some of the fine motor stuff. I mean, and I'm learning the more I talk to different women on the autism spectrum that they'd never thought about it before because they've never had to. But that was part of the reason why puberty was really rough for them in a way that it wasn't for others. There are of course all these sensory issues that are pretty hellish before, and then you hit puberty, and for a lot of adolescents who have sensory processing difficulties, those problems actually get worse around puberty. Sensory issues can also get worse around puberty. So and so the embodied discomfort is it could be something more significant and more indicative of something that needs some kind of assessment, as opposed to just, all girls are uncomfortable during puberty. And it's okay, but not all girls, for example, want to rip their skin off because now they have to wear them, their breasts keep growing, and then they need new bras, and the new bras have different textures from the old bras, and they can't get used to it.
Okay, so I think that so I want you guys to keep in mind that she's autistic, neurodivergent on the spectrum. So keep that in mind. So me being ADD, when I would play sports, I had to have tight fitted clothes because loose clothes would drive me crazy. And so when you're neurodivergent, when you're on the spectrum, any extra stimuli is extremely annoying. So now you have a bra, now you have extra clothing, now you have things that are binding and whatnot. And so if you have someone that validates, oh, you know what, I just really think that you're in the wrong body, you should have surgery, you should think about maybe transitioning, that type of thing. So I'm understanding where she's coming from, because she's not coming from a I don't want to say average, but and I know plenty of neurodivergent people, so they're not going to take offense to this. That their stimuli, their sensory, their everything that is an external stimuli is completely different. Some people have audio stimuli overload. Some people have sensory. Sensory could be audio, so it could be vision. It could be audio. It could be sounds, touch, smells. It's just too much. And so if you have people that are intentionally targeting this group of people, that is where we have an issue. And I do know for certain, because I've said this 6 times tonight, and I'm going to keep saying it, as I have undercover footage from Utah, from the Utah Gay Pride Center, where they were wargaming this, where they were like, what's going to be our messaging? How do we exactly target these kids? So they're intentionally targeting these kids. They're intentionally becoming friends with these kids to guide them to this path of transitioning. I don't know why adults want to do this thing, but they do. Well, I do know why. But we're on YouTube, so we're going to keep the conspiracy theories to myself, and we'll discuss that at a later time. But that makes sense. And I did have to push pause for a second, because what she's saying is important. And I didn't get it before. And now I think I actually get it. Yeah, pubertal discomfort as well, like the cramps and whatnot. But when you're describing like your bra being too tight and all this stuff, and maybe I'm wrong, just the body changes are uncomfortable. So Maya, you can correct me. Is it due to, you're about 30 seconds behind me speaking when I'm seeing the chat. So hopefully you're going to get this. Good. I'm glad you're in the chat. So Maya is the one speaking, and she's actually in the chat, guys. So which is really cool. But she can correct me, because I'm trying to be accurate. I don't know everything. So I'm just taking, based off of your words, how I was interpreting how they would be to someone who, I mean, puberty discomfort sucks already, but then you take someone who is extra sensitive to extra stimuli, and that's what I was taking it as. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. All right, continuing on.
Because of the rate at which they're growing, and so that level of overwhelm with change, and with inability to sort of process sensory input properly, that can lead to distress there. It can also lead to distress in terms of social interaction. Girls on the autism spectrum are well known to be pretty adept at masking their autistic traits, more so than boys on the spectrum are known to be, which is why a lot of girls will evade getting diagnosed. They're good at just basically mimicking the behaviors of others around them. But then the problem is, around puberty, these social communication behaviors of adolescent females become significantly more complex and reliant upon things like sarcasm and non-literal forms of language and communication. And it's, the backhanded compliment, all these like social hierarchies with mean girls and all this other stuff. And a lot of autistic kids are basically unable to intuit those things. They don't pick up on that stuff. So the social landscape becomes really confusing for them when it comes to the other girls, but the other boys, they haven't developed yet, right? Because girls go through puberty earlier, which is why I think you see a lot of autistic girls getting sucked into this around 6th or 7th grade, because their peer group has started developing, but the male peer group has not yet, overwhelmingly. And so they haven't caught up to the girls, and they won't for the next several years. And if you're a girl who can't stand to, like, cannot bear the thought of basically adorning herself with all of these feminine accoutrements, such as having long hair that touches your neck or your back, or things like cosmetics like makeup that you have to feel on your face, or tight clothing, or any of these feminine things that for some girls could be like an absolute sensory nightmare. You combine that with lifelong sort of situation of trying to mask the fact that you don't understand what the hell is going on around you, and trying to convince other people that you're not an idiot for not knowing those things. And then suddenly you're masking, your ability to mask your deficits no longer exists, because the social rules have just gotten so complicated that you can't even like mimic, because now they're using sarcasm. And so you don't understand why it is they're saying that it's such a nice day outside when it's raining, when you know that this person doesn't like the rain. And that's just one benign example of it. So everything gets really complex. And then you're given this explanation online, maybe you hear it in school. I mean, by now it's everywhere. By now it doesn't take a whole lot of grooming or indoctrination to get a kid to start ideating in this way, because it's in the zeitgeist. It's literally everywhere. And so like a kid could be exposed to this, it's a possibility model at this point. It's just a thing you can be. That's the way kids see it. It's like a possible, some people could be doctors or lawyers, and some people can be transsexuals and also could be doctors and lawyers, right? It's just a thing you can be. It's very culturally visible in a way that it didn't used to be. And so now if you're a girl who has all of these types of confusion and issues, and you don't actually know why you're so odd and why you can't, no matter how you try, the other girls just don't make sense to you. And maybe the boys make a lot more sense to you because they have not developed socially in the way that the girls have yet. That could be one reason. It could be maybe because the boys tolerate more of your obsessions about science and math, and the girls are more obsessed with like celebrities and stuff and pop culture and, whatever else. And that's not to say that autistic girls don't have those obsessions. Some do. And then those might be the ones who might find it easier to fit in with some of their female peers. But so there are other confounding variables as well. But like, let's just say that all of these things that I've just discussed here in a girl around puberty, and she's given this possibility model and told that this is going to solve your problems, and it's a system. And these kids love systems. They love computers. They can, they want to learn about how computers work but by taking apart the computer and putting it back together again, they'll deconstruct anything. They're primed to basically want to understand everything at its roots by deconstructing it and then putting it back together again. So all this language about deconstructing gender and deconstructing this and deconstructing that, which is part and parcel to queer theory and postmodernism, this is very appealing to that type of a girl who has a huge incongruence or disparity between her IQ, her high IQ usually, and her poor social intuition and social communication delays. Those are the types of kids who we're seeing time and time again.
I haven't said this yet, this entire space, guys, but please share out this stream. No one has, I think that Joe is the first person to do so. Please share this out. For whatever reason, it didn't post to my timeline. I don't know if that's a glitch or if that's a new thing that X is doing. So please share it out. Thank you, Joe, for sharing.
Getting sucked into this stuff. And I don't even remember what the question was, but I think the question was, about puberty and discomfort. I think that yeah, there are some kids for whom this is absolutely just normal pubertal discomfort. And if you don't affirm it, it's going to, and you just kind of like let them screw around with their appearance a little bit, try on different hairstyles and stuff, they might grow out of it. But then there are girls for whom this could be a more persistent phenomenon and more persistent factor in their lives because it's more complex than that. And so it could stick around for longer than that. And if you see persistence as a sign that this person is truly trans or truly needs to, or would truly benefit from having their healthy bodily functions disrupted or their bodies maimed or mutilated, if you see a persistence of this type of self-belief in a transgender identity as being indicative of this is a good candidate for these really invasive, poorly studied procedures, then you're more likely to catch those kids because they will be persistent, because they're autistic. This is their special interest now, and none of their underlying needs that got them to this place have ever been met.
Wow. Thank you for that. Jamie, do you have anything?
No, I just wanted to make sure we got to that somewhere in the evening. That was perfect, Maya. Thank you so much for addressing that. I just wanted to, again, make sure it was covered a little bit. It's important to me because I'll tell you right now, if I were a young girl, and nowadays, like I was back then, I worked in a machine shop building engines at 12 years old. I was very much a tomboy. I can tell you in this society nowadays, somebody might have tried to get to me. I just know that because I played with army men. I'm all woman, I'm all girl, but I think I would have been in danger had I been me now. Yeah, rather than 40 years ago.
Right?
Yeah.
Playing with the boys, riding the four-wheelers.
Yeah. I was very
I'm gonna give a little bit of pushback because I can. This is the benefit of being on a live stream. I'm only gonna give a little pushback because of this. Is I think that before 1996, 1986, before they changed the way they did the jibby jab and the formulas for that, and I did a lot of research. The formula changed about 1996 and the MMR. And if you'll go through, I think we're allowed to talk about vaccines now and talk about them in a more scientific manner. But the formula changed in 1996, and it's on the CDC website where they are trying to find the links. It could be in the nutrition, it could be environmental, it can be through vaccinations, it could be through Tylenol, it could be through various things. But before 1996, there's some compounding factors. There's also through SSRIs. So people born before 1986, 1996, in that 10-year period, they're not going to have the same neurological compounding factors. So I don't think that I don't think that group of people, which I meant that group of people, were a target for such things. So even though we were like, oh man, I would have just been so susceptible, there's been this effort that they've capitalized on the fact that there's a bunch of people who are now on the spectrum, because before 1996, we didn't see this issue. So I'm playing with, like, I was a tomboy and I still love dresses. I wanted a dress so bad for Easter. We were so poor. All I wanted for Easter was a pink dress. I never had a cute, brand new pink dress. Don't know why, but I still like to be active. I like to be outside. I was very mathematical. I was very scientific, but I also like to be very girly. And so I think that the times are different, and I think that they capitalized on this, whether it was intentional, whether it was by happenstance. I'm not here to say that. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. But I just that's the only pushback that I'm giving her, because I love her, and I disagree just a little bit. I think times are different, and they just found a different way to capitalize on our children. Because if you capture the kids, if you control the kids, and the government now becomes the daddy, then they can control society. Like that's you have to break up the family unit.
I was a big tomboy, so yeah.
I'm right there with you, sister. Thank you for asking. And yes, thank you, Maya, for sharing that. And actually, I do believe that possibly takes care, and we're going to you next, Matt. I believe that possibly takes care of one of our questions down below, which was why not autistic boys? I think she just gave us a lot there to digest on how the answer to that question would be. There's a lot of different things that play into it, right? And thank you for that, Maya.
Yeah, and I can't speak to the autistic boy experience. I mean, I have some ideas and thoughts, but I think it would be much better to get a perspective of an autistic boy, and Ben would be one of those interesting ones, because he almost got sucked in, but managed to not get sucked in, and so that could be like a really valuable.
I think that one thing that we oh, I didn't mean to keep that. I'm like, why am I not on camera? That is one thing that we have to keep in consideration too, is because I know many, many people that are on the spectrum, and not everyone handles everything the exact same way. So Maya's giving everything from her perspective as a female through what she has dealt with her upbringing. So you have nurture, you have nature, you have all of those things. And so you're going to have men and you're going to have women's perspectives, and you're also going to have, and they're all going to be different. I think it's really important to get and listen to as many of them as we can for us to better understand the ways that they're going to target these kids. Because at the end of the day, the whole entire goal about the space on Tuesday nights and the live stream on Tuesday nights is to protect the children. So we're learning, if you have a neurodivergent child, if you have a child that's on the spectrum, you have a kid that's autistic, these are things that you can learn, and these are things that you can take in and be like, oh, okay, I can talk to my kid about X, Y, and Z. I can make sure that I protect him from this or that. And so that is the whole entire goal of listening to all of this because it is so relevant and it is so, so, so important.
Able experience to sort of get closer to the experience of the autistic boy, but there are a few male detransitioners and others who've had these types of experiences and would perhaps like have a different way of describing what happened to them around puberty, as Sven might. But like, I can't answer the question for autistic boys because like boys and girls experiences of puberty are not the same because
Right.
men
Well,
and
we
women
will
are
definitely
different.
let him. We will definitely let him speak on that then. Okay, when we come to you, Sven, you already know what you're going to have to answer. I love it. Okay, let's go over to Matt. Go for it, brother. How are you tonight?
I'm doing just fine, Brandy. Thank you. Thank you so much for the space as always. Thank you for all you do. I know, I've seen, I know I've seen you in only one other space. So it's good to hear from you and interact with you. And thank you for everything you've shared with us tonight, for giving your time. I have something that I want to, a couple things that I wanted to, I guess, get your take on. And one of them is that I think yeah, it's clearly a social contagion amongst the parents, but I think the underlying thing that drives that is the fact that the parents are being shown how we have glamorized that transgenderism as opposed to the transgenders themselves. And it also has to do with the fact that they're looking around and they're seeing how all these sorts of perks or quote unquote rewards that come with people who wear that label, and so they go, well, I want my kid to do that as well. Hence why you saw a story go viral last year, where a mom had like 4 kids that were transgender, both
Wow.
because of the social contagion and the fact that she's looking around going, well, what? Well, I need to get on that on this as well. Look at all these other people who are doing this, and it also has to do with the fact that, like I said, these are the behaviors being rewarded and incentivized. So at some point, people are going to naturally follow through with that because those are the virtues that they see around them, particularly coming from uh, the elite sectors of society, and that doesn't even touch on the money that is involved in the medical industrial complex, uh, pushing these surgeries and only affirming that, and to only affirm this onto the kids. I know that's a bit of a mouthful, forgive me, but that's a couple things I wanted to get your take on.
So you wanted to get my take on the question of the
Well,
parent with the 4 trans kids, or the like what specifically?
well, not specifically that, not specifically that, as much as the idea that stuff like that happens because they're they're looking around and seeing these virtues rewarded. They're seeing these things as virtues when they're really not, in my opinion. But uh, they're going, well, I want this too. Let me find a way to make my kids transgender. And so like I said, it's that. I think that plays a part in this as much as the fact that this issue is in part a social contagion. I think there's other factors that play into it, and like I said, that doesn't even touch on the money and the medical industrial complex aspect of this.
Yeah, so I just want to like remind everyone in the space that I am not God. I'm a 26-year-old who is talking about her specific experience and her observations of the phenomenon. I do not know. I have no way of understanding every possible reason why a parent would transition their kid. I think I've discussed previously a significant amount of length that there are parents who would transition their very young kids for very different reasons. Some of them genuinely have their kids' best interests at heart and are just basically duped by a shoddy medical profession that is over promising based on no high quality evidence and obviously under delivering in terms of creating their child in the image of the opposite sex. because no one actually can become the opposite sex, and you're just sacrificing a bunch of bodily functions to even attempt it. So like, I think that there's some parents who are really well intentioned and they're sold a lie. They're told that this is safe, it's reversible, and that like there's basically a very low regret rate. Um, and that puberty blockers are reversible and this, that, and the other thing. And your kid isn't going to grow out of it. And if they do, like, they'll have so much time to decide, as if raising your kid as the opposite sex is like not a very influential intervention. And that they can cement their self-concept and their identity. Like, there are a lot of parents who are lied to, and there are some parents who are both lied to by the culture, by the doctors, but who also don't oppose it. Maybe they just are like very just your average American kind of like helicopter bubble wrap parent. It's a certain archetype of an American parent is the one that just kind of coddles their kids. Other cultures don't really do that as much. It's not to say that every American parent is like that, but we certainly know there's a type of American parent who is. And they're not always liberal. Sometimes they are. You also have helicopter parents. I mean, like you have two types of helicopter parents as I see it. You have the kind of bubble wrap American kind of parent that coddles their kid. And then you have the more like Eastern style, maybe like Chinese or Eastern European or Indian tiger parent who kind of pushes their kids to a certain extent and doesn't really grant them any chance at autonomy. And so, and both of those kids, I think, I've seen them like overrepresented in these types of communities. Simply because there is in both cases, they're adolescents like pushing against boundaries, and rather than the adults understanding what it is for what it is, one loses their minds, and either they go just straight away to just affirming every claim the kid makes because they're scared that the kid is going to off themselves because they're given bad advice and they're being lied to by doctors, or they just say, you know what, no, this is all insane. We're not going to talk about this. I want nothing to do with this subject. Stop telling me about these feelings. And in that case, then the kid just ruminates on those feelings by themselves, and none of their core, none of the issues that they're actually dealing with even have the chance to be seen by any kind of professional who could help them deal with those things. So I think both of those panic-based reactions are really bad. I just think that that's kind of what we're seeing is that like parents have been given really shitty ideas. Like for as long as I've been alive, parents have been given really shitty ideas about how to raise like good kids. And I know this because when I was like 8 years old, at the same time as I was becoming really obsessed with this rare brain tumor, I would also read parenting books for fun. And so I know a lot of the advice that Gen Xers were being given about how to raise their Gen Z kids. I see it in my generation. I think that it leads to a lot of problems overall, this whole participation trophy culture. Like this is, again, a very, very uniquely American approach to childhood. This idea that like you need to coddle your kids and that their self-esteem is the most important thing and it needs to be prioritized.
I have to cut in for just 1 sec. And it's not because I clicked the wrong button. It's not because what she's saying isn't important, but I also want to give a different perspective so she mentioned about parents reading how to raise your kid books. Okay. I think that that's the problem is there's a lot of kids that grew up with parents that are either single parents. So they're not there. The system is raising their kids and they're too busy to do the parenting thing. Or they're from 2-parent households and both parents are so busy working that they don't have time. I learned how to parent from my parents. I learned how to parent from my mom, from my dad, and from other people. I didn't read books. No one told me what I was supposed to do to raise my kids. And I think that with all of these, I think that some parenting books are like self-help books. They are designed to do exactly, either they're going to help you or they're not, but they're designed to make money. And I think that that's where we go wrong is we have moms out of the household. They're not raising their kids. They're not teaching their kids. They're not there for their kids when they get home from school. And I think that is the breakdown of society. Even with these neurodivergent, autistic kids, I think that might be a difference. And maybe Maia could give me her perspective. Maybe her mom was home all the time. I don't know, but that's a good question I would like to know, because I think a lot of it boils down to is, were you taught discipline? Were you taught that you do your homework after school? Were you taught to do chores on Saturday? Were you taught that you did do certain things on Sunday because it was a Lord's Day? What were you taught, and what was acceptable and what wasn't acceptable? And it sounds like a simple plan, a simple solution. And so maybe, Maya, if you're still in the chat, please let me know. It's just a thought.
Above, the chance to do something risky and stupid, which could lead to a kid getting their arm broken, and then learning about the limits of their embodiment, and about like what's the safe risk versus an unsafe risk, and how to deal with distress and pain and build a tolerance to it. Like, our culture has just lost a lot of conventional wisdom. So I don't think that we should just blame parents who get bad advice and take that bad advice, because there are some parents who actually care more about their self-image than they do about their own kids, which is certainly some of these parents, but not most of them, I would venture. There's just been like, these parents are being given bad advice that the rest of the parents are. So I think we have a parenting problem, honestly.
I'm sorry to step on you, but we got quite a few hands still, and we try to shut down at 9 Central, but we might go a little over. So I just want to respect your time too. Thank you. Do y'all hear how much education she has? She is a wealth of knowledge about this. And this is exactly why this is who I was like, hey, you want to come in and educate us on your view? Because you are phenomenal at educating us on this. And I want to thank you for that. I do have to say, you've lost me a couple times just because it's long. So I want to say, guys, don't forget, this is recorded, okay? And I do not want you to skip over anything she said. Go back and replay it once the space is over, or maybe tomorrow or the next day, because there's a lot here that we truly, as parents, as aunts, as uncles, as people in the communities, as the adults in our communities, we need to digest what she is saying so that we know how to help anyone that might need our help in this. And of course, we're not the experts in this. Definitely, I know that Maya has ways that she can help as well. You can always definitely follow her so that you have a connection to her. I definitely want to highlight that. But for sure, without a doubt, share this space out. You can take this and put it in a text message. You can put it in a messenger chat. You can do anything with this link. And whoever listens doesn't have to have X. So we always like to point that out, Maya, because you have a lot of good information, and we need other people who are not in this space to hear this information. So thank you again for everything you're doing. Gosh, you are a wealth of knowledge. All right, Jeremiah, I saw you unmiked, and then we will go over. I can't even see hands anymore. I know Sven was up here for a while, so we'll go to him after you. Or is Jeremiah stuck?
I don't know if Jeremiah's stuck. I'm so sorry that I can't help you because
First, and
it's quite a blessing. I hope you guys can hear me. But yeah, I'm Sven. I've been talking to Maya about this stuff for quite a long time now. It's been a year. I can't believe it. But yeah, I'm here because, obviously I have the autistic male perspective, and I'm also the founder and executive director of the Autistic Freedom Network. And I'm here to give all of these young autistic boys and girls and their parents a truthful alternative to what's being given to them, because pretty much everything that's out there, every autistic organization, every system in place, the schools, the hospitals, the doctors, everything is completely complicit in this negative ideology that clearly has affected us more than anyone. I found out about this 2 years ago, and I'm like, I have to do something about this, considering I've been through a whole heck of a lot of stuff, and even a near miss with trans identification myself, as Maya and I have talked about as well. But, I'll try to make an incredibly long story short. I noticed people have been dragging this out, but I'll make this as short as I can. But yeah, I was actually, most autistic boys get diagnosed very young. I was diagnosed before I even turned 2 years old. And you might think that's a benefit, but it's actually awful, because my parents, not only were they inexperienced,
I got to pause them right there because I have a client so I work from home and I have a client and she, her son was 18 months old. She had just barely had a baby. And after a certain period there's a certain thing that happens at 18 months of age at the doctor's office, right? And within a couple months, it might have been even a couple of weeks, she started seeing a big, huge difference. He started toe walking. Sounds drove him absolutely crazy. She saw an instant change. So, being diagnosed early, even as a male, a lot of these parents are doing the best that they can. They weren't we weren't raised with this type of thing. We weren't raised that this was a normal thing. Like right now, if I were to have a baby, I would think, oh, well, this is normal. So diagnosing and trying to get your kids the proper therapy is a good thing. I think it more depends on your parents, and I don't want to step on this person's toes. I just want to give a little bit of a different perspective because I do know how, like, this kid can't do anything. Like, he won't eat certain foods. It's really hard for her to manage her child. So she needs to know what's going on what's going on with my kid. Yeah, he's diagnosed at 18 months old, maybe 2 years of age, but he's being diagnosed. Why? So that she can seek the treatment that she thinks is going to best help her child. So I hear his perspective. He sees it as a downfall as a child, but as a parent, I think it's just slightly different.
But they were given only one option on how to raise me. So I was forced to go through early intervention. I was put on drugs until literally just a couple weeks ago, starting at 5 years old. So 17 years. I'm almost 22. In fact, my birthday's in 3 days. So happy birthday to me. And I was also put through special education basically the entire way through school. And because of that, I was also given preschool level assignments in 5th grade and forced to move schools for 1 year because of my autism diagnosis and my perceived need for what's called an affective needs program. That's actually different from severe special needs that you've probably heard of. But this put me in a deep depression. This was around the same time I discovered gender ideology, before 8th grade even finished. And it was 9th grade where I was forced to move schools. So I just sort of found this ideology online because it just seemed really fascinating to me. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know anyone actually did this. But apparently it's a thing that's being tried and is still being tried on my people, our peers. And we're talking about some of the brightest kids in the country, too. It's not like it's just happening to a bunch of average kids. And like, if I'm just going to, I mean, I was faced with a decision at one point. My parents actually did ask, would I rather wear boys' clothes or girls' clothes? And it was with some hesitation, I picked boys' clothes, but I can only imagine what if I had picked the other option. I'm not going to tell how that happened, but yeah, I had my own near miss. And even though I avoided
I wish he would have said how old that happened because I do think that that's really relevant. If his parents were his kids guiding him based off of social norms, where they lived in their social circles, or was it random? I think the age of which they had this discussion. I wish that he felt comfortable sharing it, and maybe in the future he will. So Maya, maybe talk to him or DM me. I'm curious for myself, not to shame anyone, because I'm just really curious at what age they're like, oh, do you want to wear boys' clothes or girls' clothes? Were they pushing him based off of their social circles, or was it something else? Because I'm really curious.
transitioning myself, I still was fascinated with the propaganda that was given to me. I mean, of course, I know the truth, but like after I found out this is happening to so many autistic kids, like, mind you, we already didn't have relationships. This is another thing that drags us in. We often don't have meaningful relationships in our entire lives, and so the trans ideology, the activists, just promise that to us if we transition. I mean, it might be more complicated than that. Again, I'm trying to keep this short, and I think I've already gone on a little long, but I I guess if I'm going to point something out, there was a point in my life, my puberty was a little early. It was around 6th grade. So it was around the same time as most of the girls in my age group rather than the boys. And I talked to the girls a lot more often than the boys. I was never really into, I mean, I've been sporty and I was sporty as a little boy, but for my adolescence, I was very sort of indoorsy, maybe a little gentle compared to other boys my age, and just maybe a little more kind and more slightly more feminine coded, if I can put that in one term. And I just felt I fit in with the girls more. So it's sort of the opposite problem that a lot of autistic girls deal with. A lot of autistic boys might not necessarily be into stereotypically masculine things quite as often, and they'll fit in more with the girls. And it can easily be picked off by trans activists as being trans. And thank God they didn't find me, because oh my gosh, I'd just be another detransitioner if they did. Because I found the ideology, but the ideology didn't really find me. So, I mean, I thank God all the time that my body's intact and I just avoided it all completely, because I knew exactly what my problem was. And it wasn't that I was trans, it's that I was living in a society that wasn't designed for someone like me to succeed. So that's what my problem was. And I'm advocating for a truthful alternative now that I'm seeing so many of my peers, the people most similar to me, especially my potential romantic partners, just being cut up and destroyed by these disastrous procedures. Like, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. Words can't describe just how evil this is. And so I want to save them and give them a place in what can only be described as the greatest country in the history of the world. I mean, we're part of the group that built it, and it's going to be people like us who are going to save it. So, like, we have the skills, we have the knowledge, we have the traits that quite literally built America, like Elon Musk. So, we deserve our own place in the world. And that's what I'm trying to offer. I'm trying to offer a platform for autistic young people to share their stories, not just their experiences with gender ideology, but also with some of the abuse we've been dealing with in the schools. Like, it's, autism itself only does so much. I mean, Maya talks about that a lot, but autism itself, while it can play its own roles, is like the developmental delays and stuff, even though in my case, I'd say I was developmentally ahead, like a lot of people. But, there's just, goodness, I lost my train of thought there. But we just deserve our own truthful platform, because there's no organization like ASAN, Autistic Women's Network. They're just going to push us down the path of transgenderism. So that's why I founded a network where we can share our stories and share the truth about what's really happening to us and how we can get on the right path. Yeah, Brandy, it's great to meet you, and I hope we can go into more details because I can't stay here forever. But yeah, thank you guys, and just pray for us. Like, pray that we will finally be able to get ourselves out there and do the things that God created us to do, and that we can have our own place in the world and do the things that we aspire to do and do what's great for the country. So that's what I'm here to do. And yeah, thank you very much. And I hope to have my own space with you guys one day. So that'd be great. But yeah, Maya, you can say some stuff about that.
I think you summed it up well. Put Autistic Freedom Network's page in the Jumbotron, like them, follow them. It's a great startup idea for an organization. There really do need to be more autistic spaces that are not like captured by woke ideology, because like autistic young people need like actual assistance and actual help in a lot of areas of their lives. And the fact that transing so many of them, including some who are nonverbal or semi-verbal, and so are asked to draw their gender experience to be assessed as to whether or not they should be chemically castrated. Yes, there were videos of those types of discussions happening in the, and you can look into the leaked W files to find that. But like, they need something better than that, surely.
Yes, and we absolutely will talk. Sven, thank you so much for coming in. We need to hear both of your sides of this, and we absolutely will hold another space with you. No doubt. This is anything to protect the children. We're here to do it. So thank you so very much for sharing everything you did. I want to give a mic check real quick to Jeremiah. Are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. If you can hear me.
He's alive. We hear you.
Hello. I don't know. I said quiet too
Breaker,
long.
gotcha.
I
Finally.
said quiet too long. They tried to shut me down.
Well, you did open your mic. So do you remember what you were going to say?
Absolutely do not. That was like 3 PDFs ago.
All right. Well, we will throw your hand up or on mic when you're ready. Anything you need to do to get our attention. All right. So I see Zach and I see Jennifer. I want Zach to go real quick, Jennifer, just to make sure he doesn't have a question in his audience because he's live streaming our space. And then we will roll over to Jennifer. Go ahead, Zach.
I don't got no questions in the audience. And my sister's got autism really, really bad. And my mom cuts her hair like a boy. Don't know why or any type of thing like that. Don't understand it. And Maya, I do follow you. I've been following you for 2 years on another profile. They got suspended. I've been using this one. You follow me back on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just followed you back. I hope your sister is well. And having long hair, when you hate feeling things on your face and on your neck, of course, as you said, can be quite onerous. So it's very possible that there is a non-trans related reason that she's cutting your sister's hair very short, and it's simply because if your sister, this or whoever this young woman was that you were discussing, cannot enter her own hair, then it would make sense that that would be short.
Okay.
I hope your whole family's well.
Yeah, my whole family's pretty well. I hadn't talked to my mom for about a year and a half. I've been kind of sad about that. My dad's fine. All my other family's fine.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's go over to Jennifer. Hello. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for asking.
I raised my hand a while back, and I do remember. There's now a bunch of things I want to say, but the main reason I raised my hand was because someone had mentioned Detransitioner Awareness Day. That would be March 12th. This is the 5th one, and I've participated in a couple of them. And a good idea is that, if you can't make it to DC, if you can't make it to, an event outside, would be just to, write Detransition Awareness Day, March 12th, and film yourself writing it, put it on X. I think I did that at the beach. I wrote it in the sand with the waves coming at it. I put that on X. I had a "No Child is Born in the Wrong Body" sign, which I, put out in the snow while it was snowing, and took a picture of that just to get the exposure that we want for the children that have been psyoped into this. My other just quick comment, I'm having connection issues, is about, the children and the adults. It's, it's not benign that men that dress up as women are harmful to women and children. So it's not like, I feel like there's an empathy for them because they're mentally ill, but the answer isn't plastic surgery, because no human being can change sex. We all know that. We all know that, if you think of yourself, you cannot change sex. And if you think anyone else can.
The space is going to die in like 30 seconds, and then or 54 seconds, and then I'm going to go find part 2 of it. So hold tight.
Then there's a problem there. You're not thinking straight. And if you think other people should, because, of their mental illness, that result harms women and children. And we are worried about the children and women, right? We're worried about, there is empathy for them. But transvestitism
Wow,
is a
she goes an hour
paraphilia,
overtime.
and paraphilias are dangerous because they, when you interact with the public, you're violating someone's consent. So that's why they're dangerous sexual disorders, and we don't want adults, claiming a trans identity, because that's sex deception, and that's a paraphilia. But yeah, I just want.
Okay, so right now the space cut out, so we're gonna re-enter the space, and we're gonna get it. Hold on. There we go. So I'm gonna push pause, and I'm gonna go find it on my. No, I'm not gonna try to play it through the PC. So hold on just a second. Let me go and find the second link. She's already doing the
Connection. I'm not too surprised either that I'm actually kind of shocked we went that long without a connection loss, if I'm honest. So I'm glad that lasted so long. And we won't be here long, but I definitely wanted to come back together and allow those who had questions to ask them. Let me go ahead and make sure. Let me get Jamie up here real quick so she can help me. Hi, Lockjaw. Thank you so much for coming in. I'm going to give you a mic real quick before the space starts filling up. How are you, bro? Go right ahead, Lockjaw.
So, Brady, how you doing? It's been a minute.
It has. I'm so good to. It's good to see you.
Good to be here. Glad you're having a space. Maya, real quick. I don't know if it was said or not, so if it was, just say it was said. We'll move on. I was reading a little bit your post, bio, whatever, trying to understand you, and I was wondering when you were talking to your parents about it, your uh chest. My question is, did they ever think about, like, do you ever go to a psychiatrist? Did they even suggest a psychiatrist? I mean, did you see one before or after or whatever, or anything?
So, I mean, I've discussed this previously, so I recommend listening to the recording on that space. On the first part of this space, there was nothing. There was no. This was not an industry yet. Therapists didn't want to take this case. They didn't know how to deal with it. I'd been in all sorts of different types of therapy for, physical therapy, for even psychotherapy, occupational therapy. I've been to so many different types of therapy for like developmental delays. But in terms of just like, specifically related to the the stuff with, my qualms about developing breasts as like a 9 and 10-year-old, no, I was not in therapy for that. Yeah, and I don't think that a girl who's uncomfortable with having breasts at the age of 9, I also don't think that girl necessarily needs therapy, because it's not actually a mental illness to be experiencing some kind of distress or ambivalence about developing early. I think it's just good parenting and attentive parenting that needs to happen at that age. And I think we need to be very careful to over pathologize normal adolescent distress. Regardless, I think that therapy, there's a lot of Abigail Schreier has written this book, Bad Therapy, about how kids are over therapized and how that causes them to have more, it potentially causes them to have more adverse mental health outcomes, because what they needed perhaps wasn't a therapist to give them a structure to ruminate about all of their intrusive thoughts, but was perhaps, a friend group. I think kids should be spending way more time with their friends and their peer group than they ever are in therapy, because most kids are not actually severely mentally ill. That includes kids who are questioning their gender. I think that if there's a mental illness that needs to be addressed, there's a mental illness that needs to be addressed. I'm not saying that there should be no therapy, but I'm saying that, like, if there is an actual problem that is underpinning this, rather than just a teenager being kind of confused. And that's, of course, a decision that parents are going to have to make for themselves about, does this kid actually need therapy? I think that is a parent's right to make that decision, certainly, but we have to also remember that any type of psychotherapeutic intervention, regardless of regardless, is not going to have a neutral outcome for better or for worse.
Okay, sorry. My friend Jamie up here and Relentless Mikey, I just got to tell you, I just got to moondoor someone in ICE's honor. So that's why the person requesting the mic would not have been friendly to Maya. So I got to give them an exit. So
Yeah,
that
you
was
think?
exciting. Did you
Thank
see
you
that
very much.
profile?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much for doing
Girl.
what you did, girl. Rock on.
Yep. No, we ain't having that.
No, we're not having that.
Nope, we do not having that. Thank you for tagging Sven, or not Sven, but the other profile. And Sven, thank you for coming back. Thank you for that, Maya. Your information is so awesome. Like, I'm definitely going to warn people from now on that they absolutely have to make sure that they are bringing a notebook whenever you're speaking so they can make sure they write it down, because there's so much information and it's good information. So thank you. And I'm so sorry, Jennifer. I'm giving you a mic again. I lost the space. It went down. So I did not hear everything. I'm going to go ahead and give Red one. All right, let's go ahead and get back to those hands. I only reopened the space so that everyone would have a chance to ask their questions. And then we will be shutting down so that we can respect everyone's time. Red, I am trying to give you a mic, bro, and it just does not want to give you one.
I show that he has one now.
Yeah, I got one set.
Yeah.
Okay. If we could, I believe, was Jennifer speaking whenever we went down, I believe?
Yes, ma'am.
She was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pick up where you left off, Jennifer. I'm so sorry about that. I lost the space.
Thank you. I thought that I thought, oh God, I must have said something they didn't like. I shouldn't have talked about the paraphilias, but yeah, on the subject of transvestitism is a paraphilia. There are 8 of them with pedophilia included. So and they cross over. There's comorbidities among the paraphilias. So you do not want to encourage a society into something that is basically a multiple paraphilia addiction, where they have to one up, they have to keep getting surgeries, they have to keep, trying to get that virtue signaling for us to comply. Yes,
They are doing that with normal people as well. If you think about the Kardashians, you've got to have the poofy lips. You've got to have the teeny tiny waist. You've got to have the big booty. You got to always one up. You got to do the cheekbones. You got to do the Botox. You got to do everything. So it doesn't just apply. It doesn't just apply to the transgender community. It applies to other communities as well. I'm not trying, and I think that they're targeted more for specific reasons, but that's like, I'm not saying I'm right. Those are just, when I'm speaking my thoughts. Okay. So I want you to take that into consideration. But when she just said that thing, it just triggered this response into my head that the one-upism is keeping up with the Joneses. You've got to have a bigger house. You've got to have more cars. You've got to have a greener lawn. You got to have this. You got to have that. And so I think that is it's a problem that is, oh, how do I say this? I'm trying to curate my words, which is I don't like doing. I think that they specifically target that community, but I think it's more widespread than just that community, if that makes sense. I hope that it does.
You're a woman when you're a man. That's very, very dangerous because it makes the public lie. And the public, lying for yourself is bad. Let's face it, that's bad. But lying for someone else, for your own mind, is much, much worse. It dissociates you because you have no rationale for the lie you told. You just obeyed. And then it also in turns gives them the validation that they're looking for, and so they can continue with their addiction. So I do have sympathy for them, but I don't think that we should justify our sympathy by, encouraging and saying, well, they can do what they want. No, actually, what they want to do is harm women and children. And our society is filled with, women and children. So we do
True.
not want, this at all.
True.
I mean, rejecting it, you don't have to be mean when you reject it. You can just say, I will not lie for you. I don't want to dissociate my mind.
Size 6, depending on your height, is not a bad size. It's healthy.
For you.
And if I don't mean to interrupt you, but if I can just share a little bit on what you just said, right? Medical, same way. They were coming for the children and women with the vaccine, right? Especially pregnant women. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah, for sure. Keep going.
Yeah, it's just your best weapon in this is the truth. Always be truthful with yourself and others. You don't believe people can change sex. Nobody believes that. And if you do, you have a problem because they can't. Not even people with DSDs. People with DSDs are born with a birth defect. They cannot change sex. They're stuck with what they were born with, just like everyone else. So just always that I found in my trial, I've been in this a while, that the truth is our best weapon. Just don't let people confuse your mind by forcing you to lie for them. Always, understand the truth, where the truth is, the truth you're in, and how it relates to others, and stick to the truth, and it will set you free. And we will conquer this because it's all lies. So, and the only antidote to lies is the truth. So, well, thank you for letting me speak.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. It's a very big problem. And just to share real quick on this recording before we go to the next hand or start shutting down is the fact that, the reason we did this space tonight is I'm the vice president of Shepherd's Watch Foundation. And at Shepherd's Watch, we are an investigative team we're a nonprofit with an investigation team in house who actually assists law enforcement with federal, state, and local sex trafficking cases. And some of our cases, what spurred this space to be brought on when I reached out to Maya and said, hey, is this something you'd want to do? Is because we have seen 3 cases within the last close to a year now that were brought to us. We typically do not do missing child cases. However, we were brought 3 cases that included special needs 17-year-olds. And we see a very big, unfortunate push in these traffickers and groomers to get to children, and they will take them and get them transitioned, and they will traffic them. We're going 1 year when we looked at our cases, 3 to 5 times more for a child who is transgender versus homosexual or heterosexual. So it is very much something that people I don't think believe they don't realize what's happening. And that's why we're talking about it. And that's why we asked Maya to come in tonight. So I do want to thank you so much for your time tonight. We've had a
What she didn't say right there just now was that they target transitioning kids was it right before or right after? I think it's males right before they transition. But what she didn't say was as heterosexual parents, couples that seek that, which is very disturbing.
lot of conversation with her. We're going to have much more, especially in the back channels. We're definitely going to be able to do what we can to get Maya's voice out there. We need to get everyone's voice out there that we can, that people will listen to. And that's why we had Matt Ray and Judith Rose in last was it beginning of last year or maybe the year before, Jamie? Oh my gosh, it might already been a year now, over a year. But we heard Matt's story, right? And so one thing I have not heard you, and you might have talked about it when I had to step away for a brief moment earlier, Maya. But one thing I did not hear you mention when I was close to the mic was the medical side of this. So I don't know if you know anything about that from your perspective or if Sven does, but I know Matt had shared with us when him and Judith were on here that when he was, and he still is, right, going through the things that started breaking down and started making him sick after all the hormone blockers and now the meds that he has to take to continue being at least okay and just like all the things that's going wrong with his body. He mentioned to us that there's no medical help when people that do transition their bodies start, breaking down and they start getting sick. Well, he says there's no codes for on the medical um, procedures, right? For them to actually perform anything and help them out. Do you know or have any stories that you might be able to share to validate that? Because I want to make sure we push the need so much for people to understand that we are saying this is not, it's not truly for anyone, but we absolutely do not believe that this is something that should be offered to children. But absolutely, we need to.
What she said was very critical, and I said it earlier in the stream. I did push pause. So there's codes to medical codes, right? So you go to the doctor, they put in a code, your insurance pays for it. So if you need hormone therapy, you want to transition, there's codes that they punch in, and then your insurance pays for it. And when you want to detransition, there's no codes. They don't know how to help you. So what she's saying is really important. She's repeating what I said earlier, but let's listen to what she has to say. But please keep that in mind.
Make sure that adults who choose this, because right now it is an option, we need to make sure they're 1000% informed. So do you know anything about that, Maya? I just wanted to ask you or Sven before we move on to something else about this topic.
Yeah. So the reality of all sorts of there are so many different medical interventions that are being offered to people at various levels of accessibility, funding to get onto this pathway. I spoke a bit about breast binding, which is the most common gender transition medical intervention that is being used on teenage girls and young women. There are all sorts of things that go wrong when you chronically compress the entire upper body of a growing adolescent female. For instance, basically, I can't take deep breaths without pain. It's constricted the development of my ribs and my lungs, I presume. It's just deformed the musculature of the entire upper body. Obviously, the breast tissue, it's totally deformed that. I mean, I wake up in pain. It's really not a good situation. Like the skin quality of that entire area is prone to rips and to breakage. And so, and that's just with the breast binding. That's just with the most common intervention that these girls can be given, sometimes at school, sometimes by their pediatrician. And sometimes they can just buy it online for $30 to $40, or there are even organizations that give these medical devices out to kids for free and will just ship it to their houses. So this is dangerous. And this is probably the most accessible transition-related medical intervention. And in fact, breast binders and chest binders and abdominal binders do have approved medical uses. Obviously not in this case where the girl or the woman is healthy and just is using this because she hates her breasts. There are approved medical uses such as for breast reconstruction, augmentation, reductions, things like that, and including recovery from mastectomies, for, about 4 to 6 weeks post-operation to aid in the healing process and only under the strict supervision of a doctor. But these girls are being told by individuals online, by doctors as well, who have published guidelines about how to, safely bind your breasts, which they've made a claim that it can be done safely, just like the puberty blockers, without any studies attesting to the notion that it is safe for any girl or any woman to be compressing her breast tissue and her lungs and her rib cage and her shoulders and her spine for 8, 10, 12 hours a day for months and years at a time. So that's a farce. And that's just with one of the first interventions that they suggest or that they give to these kids and to these young adults as well. there are also all sorts of different ways that these doctors will screw with the hormones of these individuals who are gender questioning. Sometimes that can include a formal puberty blocker like Lupron, or like they have some generic versions of it as well. There are cases of, there are actually a lot of cases that I've been looking into where Depo-Provera is being used in really high doses and in multiple like combined forms to stunt the puberty of teenage girls and of young women. And they can code it in the insurance as like, menstrual suppression. And so it can, this type of pubertal intervention or hormonal blockade is actually the least likely to be eliminated by any kind of legislation, simply because it's absolutely totally normalized to screw the hormones of adolescent girls. And so if they say that it's, that they feel like they were born in the wrong bodies, then of course medicine doesn't have to make a huge leap to give those types of hormonal disruptors to them as a part of their gender affirming care journey. And then there are, of course, the cross hormones and different types of blockers that they'll give to boys and men who have already entered puberty, for whom a puberty blocker would not be indicated. They'll give other types of androgen blockers, such as spironolactone, which takes a really big toll on like liver and kidneys, and either necessitates some years down the line either a medical detransition or to have the removal of the testes. And I don't, like many of the men I've talked to who have gone through that intervention report that they were not told when they were first administered this blocker, this spironolactone, that there was going to be a time limit on how long they could use it before they'd have to make an even more consequential decision of whether or not to remove their testes. And then there are all the surgeries. And there's so many different types of surgeries that they offer. They'll offer different types of breast removal surgeries to girls and call it top surgery as a euphemism. They have ones where, if you have smaller breasts, they can basically remove the tissue laparoscopically so as to not leave a scar. If you have bigger breasts, they will do a double incision procedure and have to take the areola and nipples off and then graft them to a smaller size and try to reposition them on the chest. And then, of course, you risk things like nipple rejection in those procedures. And so there will be some people who either for that reason, for recovery time reason, or for their personal aesthetic preference, will basically be like, I don't want nipples. And the doctors will be like, okay, you don't want nipples because you want to appear androgynous or for whatever other reason, we're not going to give you nipples. That's fine. There are even some surgeons that will shape the nipples as Christmas trees or hearts or things of that nature. And that, of course, can be funded by insurance and taxpayers. And, in terms of the genital surgeries, like this is just horrific. Like, of course, everyone knows at least a basic understanding of how these supposed, as they call them, male to female surgeries, vaginoplasties are done. But they have all sorts of different new ones because when you block a boy's puberty at 10 or 2 and his genitals don't develop, then there's not enough tissue to work with to do the procedure as they had been used to doing it on fully pubertally developed adults. So then they will involve tissue from the colon or other skin grafts. And so then you're not just messing with the genitals and the urethra, all of which there are potential complications for it every single step of this journey. Now you're integrating the colon into it. And so then if someone develops something like IBS, and that impacts their colon, then that could impact the neovaginal canal as well. And in fact, a Dutch boy on whom the surgery was done with the colon vaginoplasty, he died shortly after his operation because of sepsis. And this Dutch team still proceeded with blocking these boys' puberties and putting them down on the same pathway, even though one of the kids died. So, and then there are all these different facial feminization surgeries and perhaps even facial masculinization surgeries that can lead to paralysis in some part of the face. It's and now they'll do genital surgeries that are non-binary genital surgeries where they'll basically remove everything and make you look like a Barbie doll or a Ken doll down there. They will do phallus preserving vaginoplasties, vagina preserving phalloplasties. And it's the entire thing, it's just all of it is really very dangerous. And it used to be framed in terms of this is a medical necessity for this medical condition. So that would be like the sort of trans medicalist notion of like what the purpose of these interventions is. But when it's become significantly clear that none of these doctors are making the assumption that this is like best care standard on the basis of any kind of high.
If you guys are still listening to this live stream, please share it out. This is important information. I would much appreciate it.
Quality evidence, the evidence is all very low quality. There are a lot of patients that are lost to follow-up, for example. These were not big patient populations in the first place. And the studies like are overwhelmingly methodologically poor, which is why when systematic reviews of evidence are done, there are countries that are rolling this back. And it's not like other countries like in Europe, they're not on the basis of doing this on the basis of like there was a political rally or they have a president. It's like, no, they have nationalized healthcare systems. So the government and the taxpayers have a vested stake in whether the medicine provided to the society is a good use of their resources or not, because they have limited resources. And so they have protective mechanisms built in, like systematic reviews of evidence. So they've commissioned those and they found the evidence is low quality. And so they're starting to roll this back. In the United States, unfortunately, because of this significant profit motive, and this is getting back to the answer to the question, there's such a significant profit motive that there are so many medical protocols in the United States, not just related to gender medicine, but related to basically any other type of illness, where overwhelmingly if a patient is insured, then it just seems to be that the most invasive possible procedures are basically prioritized above prevention or above trying the less invasive thing first and seeing whether or not it works. And so this is just an endemic problem throughout the American healthcare system, particularly where all sorts of experimental treatments. And it's not to say that there's no utility in experimental medicine, because there are some like conditions that like obviously you're going to need to experiment on people to see if you can solve their condition. But you need to have a pretty good theory about to what extent can the proposed intervention act on the disordered pathways. And the truth is that when we're dealing with gender dysphoria, what you're dealing with is a set of distressing thoughts, right? And you can't excise distressing thoughts out of healthy breasts and testicles. You can't squash them out of a teenage girl's growing upper body with a binder and call it healthcare. Those thoughts are still going to remain. You can't remove the disordered thoughts or the uncomfortable thoughts or the distressing thoughts from the healthy body parts and healthy endocrine systems of people of any age, but especially of young people whose distressed thoughts change very quickly, and they can be channeled into healthier ways of thinking with much more ease, perhaps, than a mature adult could. So it's even more irresponsible to do this, and then to furthermore say that it's treating a medical condition. And so, because the evidence has shown itself to be overwhelmingly low quality in this area of medicine, both in favor of transition as an intervention and in favor of psychotherapy as an intervention, because no one really thought to do a psychotherapy, to try to engineer a psychotherapy protocol and to test it and see whether it works, because this has been a very poorly done experiment from the outset. It was never meant to encompass this many people and this many different cohorts of patients. And so the entire thing is just going off the rails. There's no self-correction mechanism in the American healthcare system other than for politicians and for lawsuits to get involved. And so because of all these things, there's been an increasingly new ethos that actually it doesn't matter, like that gender dysphoria is not even a medical condition or a psychological condition, that it's called being trans, and being trans is just a natural variation within people. So it's not a pathology, but yet their surgeries need to be paid for by insurance and by the taxpayer. And so like when the evidence shows itself to be low quality, these doctors who want to do these experiments and these activists who want to push for these experiments to continually be done for their own motives, they're just going to change the rationale for the treatment to embodiment goals. It's just, let's say you're a woman who doesn't have gender dysphoria, but you just feel like taking testosterone. Well, then you should be able to take testosterone. That's the newest rationale. So there's just keep an eye out, because there's so many different arguments floating around that are based in very different eras of the same narrative. And all of these narratives in all of its different eras had their own flaws. Just keep that in mind.
Wow. I tell you, it's something that we need, all of this we need to keep in mind. So please, guys, definitely replay. Um, it's a lot. And I want to thank you again for sharing all this. Jamie, go right ahead, and then we'll go over to text thread, and then we'll go to Sven.
Well, and some of the ways people can look at this also is just by going and looking at insurance codes, and it'll pretty much verify what Maya just said. You will see insurance codes to get all of this done, but you will not see insurance codes to deal with the aftermath. They're also their parents. They go, this is heavy binding, and they ended up. All right, I'll go ahead and I'm going to send it to Ben, if that's okay with you, Brandy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, don't even get me started on the medical stuff. I mean, Maya kind of just went free with all of that. That's a lot of stuff to take in. And like, if I'm going to say one thing about all of that, I mean, if you think your puberty is a sensory nightmare, wait till you transition. Like that, all that stuff that Maya talked about, all those medical interventions that are completely experimental and have absolutely no evidence whatsoever. All of that is the worst possible sensory nightmare that I can think of. Like taking the hormone shots every week, the hormonal changes, the scarring from the surgeries, the complications, the pains from binding, and everything else that these
Okay, I'm going to be a little bit rude, but I can't. We're getting to the point where we're starting to repeat. Maya's putting out really good information. There's 30 minutes left of this space. I'm sure that a lot of people have a lot of questions. I had audio and I had streaming issues. So I was behind 45 minutes. I was not planning on going till almost 1:00 my time. So I'm going to have to end this space. I do want to thank every single person that shared out this space, this live stream. I want to thank everyone that participated. I want to thank everyone that came and joined. There's a lot of really good information. I will share and I will do live stream the rest of the 30 minutes of this. I can't do it tonight. I'm going to fall asleep while I'm live streaming. I don't think that people want me to do that. I'm just going to put that out there. So I'm going to end this stream like I end all of my streams. There is only two things in this life that you can control. It's your attitude and it is your effort. That's it. Your attitude, your effort. Anything external that happens to you, we do not have control of. So I want to thank all of you guys for coming out. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm going to get on a regular schedule. You can start seeing me on Clockwork. I will post it on X and other places. So please look for it. This is Taco Sally signing out.
Before we go, let's stay connected. Follow and subscribe. X, YouTube, Rumble, TikTok too. Thanks for tuning in, for joining what's true. Until next time, when we talk with Sally.